should be coming on. Let's see. I don't know why it's... There we go. Cool. All right, guys, we are back. Welcome to Modern Day Debates. We're going to be doing a really fun debate tonight, Christianity or Islam, which condones slavery. It's going to be the Word and I versus Nadir. And today we're going to start with some 10-minute openings, do a 50-minute dialogue, and then we'll do some questions from you guys, the audience. One more reminder for DebateCon 7, that is going to be on the 31st in Houston. You can right here get a 20% off ticket sale. It's good for another 48 hours. I think we're about halfway through that 48 hours. We just didn't change the graphic yet. So go ahead and check that out. Meet us there. And then we're going to go ahead and flip a coin, I believe, for who's going first. You got the coin, Nadir?
I don't have a coin, but I think there's like a
coin?
website. Just do flipcoin.com or something.
Let's do it.
Okay. I'll take heads. If it's heads, I go. If it's heads, then he goes first.
All right. I thought you said you had a coin. My bad, everybody.
I have a coin, actually.
Well, you could do it online. There's a website that you could do that on.
You don't trust me, Nadir?
Yeah, whatever.
Not really. Yeah.
Okay, you want to do it? I'm down to let you do it. Just turn your camera down to the coin before you pick it up.
No, go ahead. You can do it online because I got my camera mounted right here.
We're flipping a coin. You said heads, Nadir. Let's go.
Yep.
Heads. You're first.
The Word.
Okay, so
right.
He goes first. All right, 10 minutes. Go ahead and start right now.
All right, everybody. I appreciate y'all for joining us on this debate. I appreciate Nadir for showing up, and I appreciate James and Mike and Modern Day Debates for having me on the platform so we can discuss historical debate. According to Nadir himself, says everybody is running it for this debate, so I stepped up to the challenge, and this debate will be what religion condones slavery, Christianity or Islam. So before we jump right into it, I think we have to set some definitions of the term, because I believe when he says slavery, Nadir is talking about chattel slavery in the sense that America and parts of Africa, parts of the Muslim world actually progressed and partook in history, throughout history. So we're going to need to set some rules and regulations and some criteria on what does it constitute to be chattel slavery. Okay, so chattel slavery, for one, is man stealing or kidnapping, heavy bondage, chains and whips, cruel and unusual punishment, coercion, forcefully making someone do something against their own will, treating someone's body as property that could easily be discarded, and also a lifetime imprisonment with no chance of freedom. So I'm hoping that Nadir will agree with this form or these definitions of chattel slavery. And if he want to introduce one on his own time, then we can discuss that during the 50-minute open discussion. Well, but first of all, I think we have to deal with the word of slave itself, because in the Hebrew Bible, there is no particular word that distinguishes a hired worker, right, and a slave in the sense of a chattel slavery. It's all abid, abdu, abadu, kin to the Semitic languages like Arabic and Syriac, such like that. So there isn't a specific word for chattel slavery when it comes to the Bible, right? So the Bible, in the sense, it also equates many a time that this word slave can also be a stranger or sojourner in or amongst the Israelites, So anytime that you see these words of slavery or slave, is usually talking about a sojourner or a stranger in the land. right? So Leviticus 18, it tells us that the nations surrounding the Israelites performed and partook in rituals and unclean acts that made them abomination to the people. So if we read Leviticus 18, verse 29, it says, "For everyone who does any of these abominations, this person who do them shall be cut off from among their people." So not only is it one law and statute commandments for the Israelites, it also applies to the heathen nations that surrounded them, because our God is the God of all, and he and is those one statutes and commandments. Now, if we go to Leviticus 19:32, it says, "When a stranger sojourns with you in their land, you shall not do him wrong. You shall treat the stranger who sojourns with you as the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself. For you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God." So we know that the Israelites wasn't just strangers, they were also slaves, and was actually succumbed to chattel slavery by the Egyptians in Egypt and the pharaohs. So even God himself equates sojourners, strangers, and slaves all to be in the same class and same category. If we indeed, when we go and we look further into how would you treat your slave or mistreat your slave, there is statutes and legislations that regulates you not being overly ruthless in making them, being barbaric towards your slaves. Exodus 21, verse 20 says, "When a
5
man,
minutes.
slave, male or female, with the rod, and the slave dies under his hand, he should be avenged." So not only would the male or the owner who owned the slave or was under the care of the slave, he would have to die because they practice eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. So these slaves are given the same human rights as the Israelites, right? And then Exodus 21, it also says that you cannot steal a servant or a slave from anyone. You can buy them from other people, from other nations, but you can't steal them. If you found stealing a male, female, boy, girl, anyone, you're caught with them, you should be put to death. This is not what we will think of as chattel slavery, right? And I can go more and more deeper to it, because you have to uh, give them, it's 6 years that these people will be under the care or under the supervision of their masters, and then they will be let go. It's obligatory that they will be let go, right? There's a time set, statutes and legislative time regulation on how long a servant can be a servant. And when you let them go, you have to take from what you have and give to him, so he won't end up in the same predicament 6, 7, 8 months later, a year later. You will set him up so where he would not have to become a slave again or a hired worker, right? So slavery was a temporary thing in the Bible. But if we go to Sahih Bukhari, oh no, I'll start at Surah Al-Baqarah, right? 2:178. It says, "O believers, the law of retaliation is set for you in case of murder. A free man for a free man, a slave for a slave, and a female for a female. But if the offender is pardoned by the victim's guardian, the blood money should be decided fairly, and payment should be made courteously." So you see that if I was to unalive Nadir's slave, then he would have to unalive my slave. But that means I get off scot free and I don't have to suffer a penalty. My slave will. Now, do this sound like a one statutes and laws and commandments that the slave is given just as the owner? No, of course not. If we read again in the hadith 1602, right? It says that there came a slave and pledged allegiance to Allah's apostle on migration. He did not know he was a slave. Then there came his master and demanded him back, whereupon Allah's apostle said, "Sell him to me." And he bought him for 2 black slaves. And he did not afterwards take allegiance from anyone until he asked whether they was a slave or a free man. So we see that Muhammad himself is engaging in slave trading. He didn't only do one good. He took one out of slavery supposedly because he was a believer, but he exchanged them for two slaves. So he took one out, put two. He just doubled up on the slave. That's the Black Friday sale that my brother, big brother Scott, usually brings up. Right. We see time after time that Muhammad and someone will release a slave, and Muhammad will come back, and then he will override the ruling and give the slaves back to the owner. Right. And we see time after time again in Sahih Muslim 1438 that when they go on expeditions, they took slave women and they had intercourse with them, essentially making them their sex slaves.
All right, you got about a minute, 10 seconds left, buddy.
Sex slavery, brutal, and cruel punishment, taking people without their consent, right, is all propagated and facilitated by their own prophet, because he was with them on these things, on these expeditions, and he allowed the brutality of slaves. Do we find some places where it says, don't hit your slave and don't? Yes, of course, I won't deny that. Well, then Muhammad is just a walking contradiction, because he's not practicing what he's preaching. He's allowing one standard and he's doing it and relegating and delegating his judgment arbitrarily, and he's a walking contradiction. So you don't know exactly whether he is for or against slave, and more than likely he is for slavery, because he continued it and practiced in it, and there is no strict ruling that says that you cannot have chattel slavery in Islam. That'll be it.
All right. That was your time there, Word. Thank you. All right, we're going to turn it over to Nadir. Just go ahead and let me know when you want me to switch to screen share. And,
yeah, can you switch to screen share right now, please?
All right.
All right, I can start my time right now. Thank you for that, for your opening presentation full of misinformation, but that's okay. I think you're new to debating. I think you've just watched TikTok videos and basically hung out in these echo chambers and got a lot of misinformation about Islam. The Islamic version of slavery is a self-terminating system. This is how Islam actually condemns slavery. Before I begin, I want to make it clear. Slavery pre-existed before Islam. Islam cut off all the avenues for people to be enslaved except for the prisoners of wars, which is in line with the Geneva Convention. Slavery was practiced by almost all societies. So trying to point out, oh, look, Arabs did some slavery or something like that, that is a false argument that in no way reflects on Islam. Let me very quickly now begin by addressing some of the misinformation which my opponent gave. He said that there is sex slavery in Islam. There is none. I did a debate on this topic. If you get a chance, right here on Modern Day Debate, just go ahead and Google that right there, this topic, and listen to my debate on that topic, in which you'll see there is no such thing. Okay, but the point which he also said, oh, Muhammad traded 2 slaves for 1 slave. Why is that? Again, let me repeat, Muhammad is not, the Prophet of Islam is not setting the price for any of this. Okay, so you've misunderstood the hadith. He's doing it because that 1 slave, his life was in danger. Because the text very clearly stated that he pledged allegiance to the Prophet of Islam, and those people were being tortured, so he's trying to save his life. But like I said, Muhammad is working within the framework which he's given. He's not endorsing any of that. He's just trying to save a life. But now let's look and see how Islam is this self-terminating system. What it is, a self-terminating system is a system designed with an internal virus so that it will kill itself. This is how Islam condemns slavery. Some systems are intentionally designed to contain rules that eventually destroy themselves. So let's take a look at these malicious viruses that causes the system collapse of slavery. It states very clear. Let's go to the first one right here. It states, and this is, let me make this a little bit bigger for everybody. A man was beating his slave. The Prophet ﷺ said, and then he immediately saw the Prophet of Islam. I'm gonna paraphrase very quickly. Just please, just hit, freeze on your YouTube channel. so that you can get all my notes. Going to go through this very quickly. I apologize about that. So, or just hit pause. I'm sorry. So it says the Prophet of Islam said, had you have not freed your slave, basically, the gates of hell would have opened up for you. So if you beat a slave, you will go to hell. Another hadith. A man beat his slave because for a particular reason. And so what did the slave do? Did he just take it? No. He went to the Prophet Muhammad and said, told him what this guy, he basically snitched on him and said, this is what this man did to me. The Prophet of Islam went right over to the house and says, do not beat a slave. And then finally, the Prophet of Islam says, do not punish Allah's creatures, referring to the slaves, as you can see from the reference here. So this is causing system collapse. Why? Slave beating is so important in slavery. Why? That's why the Bible endorses it both in the Old Testament and the New Testament. But not only that, but it actually blesses the slave beating, and we'll look at those verses in just a minute here. But that's how you get the maximum work. If you don't beat a slave, what is he going to do? He's just going to sit around and just laugh at you. So the very core of slavery is now being demolished by the Prophet of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Now, one thing I want to point out, it doesn't, what Islam did, it took the whip out of the slave master's hand and put it into the hands of the state. So yes, you will see some slaves getting whipped, but not because they're slaves, but because they committed fornication, they drank alcohol, and there's a whole list of people getting slaved, free people getting whipped, but it's not because of slavery, okay? So I just want to make that one caveat. It's not against corporal punishment, but it needs to be fair for everybody, for free people as well as slaves. Okay, so that's the first virus in the system. Let's take a look at another one, and this should pretty much end the debate right here. It states over here in the Quran, the slavery is very temporary. First of all, I need to make that point here. It says over here inside chapter 24, verse 33 of the Quran, if any of your servants wish to be freed, grant them their wish if you recognize good in them. Any good you see, allow the slave to go free. Now, it's very important that we interpret it the way Muhammad interpreted it. The Prophet of Islam said, in the following hadith, which we see over here, Allah's messenger did not leave a dinar, nor a dirham, nor a male or female slave. He freed all his slaves at death. So slavery, which we see, which actually is not slavery now. Why? Because by definition, forced labor is part of slavery, but Islam doesn't have forced labor, as we can see. Let's take a look. If that's not clear enough for you, let's take a look, which goes more into the detail here. Okay, so it says over here, in fact, oops, wrong reference here. One of the hadith has said over here, if your slave gets tired, or do not overburden him if he gets tired. Well, what's the slave master going to do? It says, okay, let me read it carefully here. You should not overburden them when they cannot bear, and if you do so, you got to go help them. At this point, we have system collapse. Why? Because what the hadith is stating over here, it's now introducing this confusion that, okay, what do you mean by he's overburdened or something like that? It's all up to the slave. So now the large scale, and it says you got to go help him. Nobody has time for that. If you were to give me a slave and every time he gets a problem, go help him, I couldn't do it. So this is system collapse. The entire slavery system is collapsing right before our very own eyes. And then finally, let's go to the second hadith. All the slaves get VIP access. It states here, a slave girl of Medina would take a hold of the hand of the Prophet ﷺ and take him wherever she desired. So basically, every slave kind of turns into a rat or a snitch, because he's going to report what you're doing in the home. Now, how would you treat a slave like that? So this is how, if you look at how slavery is supposedly, the rules of slavery, it causes system collapse. So no, Islam does not endorse slavery in any way. And then finally, the last point I would like to bring up on this, which the Quran says, which in the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, I need to go very quickly, you give them the best education. So why is slavery temporary in Islam? So that you got a period to give them the what? The best education. Okay, So that is a so-called slavery in Islam, which actually, by definition, it's not slavery. It's something else. Now let's turn our attention to the Bible. In the Bible, it fully endorses slavery. Now there's some very good verses which do talk about being loving with a slave and stuff like that, but that's all an endorsement. Paul shows his complete and unwavering loyalty to support the violent, psychopathic slave master. He protects his power structure, and it is the slave master, not the slave, which is given VIP treatment. Let's take a look at those verses here real quick. Now, here we see a picture of these slaves with their hands cut off by their slave master. This is actually a true story here. What did the Bible say about this? It states right here, in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 18 through 24, servants, be submissive to your masters with all fear, not only to the good, but also to the harsh. So there you go. There's your chattel slavery, which he was denying, but it goes worse. Remember, this is talking about the psychopathic slave master because he's just punishing him for no reason. It states, for it is commendable if because of your conscience towards God, one endures grief and suffers wrongfully. So you're not doing anything wrong, but you're still getting a beating. For what credit is it? Is if when you are beaten for your faults, you take it patiently. So you should take the beating patiently. But Muhammad condemned it, said you are going to go to the hellfire. And then finally the verse ends. It states over here, and to this you are called. What are you being called to? What is your calling in life? To be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer? No. But to get a vicious slave beating / torture from your slave master. It states here inside verse 21 in no unclear terms. For to this you are called. So here's my question for my opponent. Look at these children with these amputees. Their hands were cut off because they could not meet the quotas. Is this beating, this torture, is this their calling in life? The Bible says so. So my opponent needs to answer that. So what also I want to bring up in this verse, if you look at it, it is talking not just about the evil side.
That is your 10 minutes.
If you give me one more minute, I think you said
go ahead and
1 minute.
Wrap it up real quick.
Sure. The Bible is talking about the psychopath because the text very clearly says there, for it is commendable if because of your consciousness towards God, one endures grief and suffering wrongfully, meaning you didn't do anything wrong, but he is just bullying you. But what you should notice is that the injustice by the slave master was never corrected. The moral burden is placed entirely on the abused party, and the abuser is never addressed or restrained. That is because the Bible, what Paul is doing, he's trying to appease the slave master. He wants the slave master to think that slavery is cool and that slavery is, that this is going to help him in his cause, so that he can teach Christianity to the beaten slaves, which he holds in power.
All
so
right.
This is your chattel slavery right here.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys doing your opening. I know some people keep saying that my mic's not very loud, so just give me a quick check on that. It's not about me, guys, but I appreciate you wanting to hear me a little better. Is that better for the sound people?
It's a little bit less, but I can hear you.
I think it'll mainly come through in the stream,
Okay.
not you guys on the Zoom. Awesome. Okay, so one more time, thanks for watching Modern Day Debates. Go ahead and get a ticket for DebateCon 7 for 20% off right here with this code, 20 firm stream. We're about halfway through the 48 hours, so we can definitely get you that discount if you act now. And also, final word members, I think we'll switch to a member-only chat towards the end potentially. And if you get your final word, I believe you will have access to all the live streams from DebateCon 7 coming up. So go ahead and subscribe to that. Awesome. So you guys want to do the 2 minutes back and forth
yes, please.
Until we can kind of see what the rhythm is? All right.
Yep.
Well, I'll let word go since you just did your opening, and we'll keep it going back and forth. You got 2 minutes word. Go ahead, starting now.
Well, Nadir just simply lied all over the place, just like he accused me of doing, of watching TikTok videos and doing that. Well, he just pulling all of this stuff from his imagination, from his got delusion of grandeur. I don't know where he's pulling all of this stuff from, but if you specifically read the text, when he just lied and said, well, Muhammad freed all the slaves. Really, Muhammad freed all of the slaves. What about Bilal? Bilal wasn't freed. That was his main slave. What about Anjasha? All of these Bilal and Anjasha never got freed. Bilal got bought by Abu Bakr, and he petitioned Abu Bakr to say, if you have bought me as a slave, then you should set me free. If you bought me for the sake of Allah, then you must set me free. When did this happen? After his prophet died. His prophet was already dead, and he was still there was still slaves in the Arabian Peninsula, even under his own watch. Slavery wasn't abolished in the Arabian Peninsula until like 1958. And it was only due because of the force of the Western nations putting on the Arabs. They practiced in slavery for 1,300 years, and he's sitting here trying to compare it to the Atlantic slave trade, which happened 400 years. 1,000 years, almost 1,000 years, 900 and some years more did the Arabs practice in slave trade. Muhammad did not free slaves. He did not do anything to abolish slavery. He actually practiced and propagated, and he benefited off of the backs of slaves.
All righty, that was 2 minutes. Just for someone in the chat who had misunderstood, we're not going to go to members only chat right now. It's like the last 10, 15 minutes or something. And I never set that. James is actually the one who turns that on. Or the bots do, or the mods. I'm not certain. It's not me. Don't worry. But we're going to hit it over to Nadir now. Guys, get your super chats in, because I have a feeling, you'll like to hear what these guys have to say. So we'll read all those at the end after this. All right, go ahead, Nadir, 2 minutes.
Yeah, now I don't mean to talk down to you, but let's just call it out. All of what I've presented, I showed references. Can you share my screen there real quick? References for what I've said. Look, I am looking to have an intelligent debate. That means you must respond to my arguments and references. So if you could share my screen, Mike, just so I can read let's read the hadith very, very carefully. It states here, Allah's messenger did not leave a dinar nor a dirham, or male or a female slave. Okay? This is the hadith right here. This is from Sahih Bukhari. And I also showed the verse of the Quran that if any of your servants wish to be freed, grant them their wish, if you recognize some good in them. As for Bilal, Bilal was freed. I don't know what's your reference that he remained a slave. I think it is you who is making things up. But what I want to emphasize here today, we need to speak from references. Now, the references are presented from you, and I expect, if you don't have the intelligence, listen, if you don't have the intelligence to debate me, rather you just double down on what you're saying, then you should let your audience know that so they're not wasting their time. Now, the Bible does explicitly say, let's read very carefully in verse 21 here, and I have it highlighted for you, to this you were called because Christ suffered for you, leaving you as an example. What is the context here? Can you share my screen real quick there, Mike? So that they can see the verse?
Yeah, I'm paying attention.
Okay, because I don't see my screen share. Okay, it states here, this is coming from 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 18 through 24, that the slave beating / torture of the evil, harsh slave master, this is your calling in life. So I will repeat my question again. Look at these amputees, these children, these are little black boys with their hands amputated. My question to you is this their calling in life?
All right, excellent. Nadir needs to be knocked off his high horse because he's not dealing with what I'm saying. He's coming up and all he's doing is showing contradictions within his own Hadith literature, because just like Islam, it never makes up his mind and is always pulling from, I don't know what, and he's getting these sources, but they're just contradictions on what the other Hadith says. Because if you read Sahih al-Bukhari 3755, 3755. There's your reference for you, Nadir. Nadir, it says, Bilal said to Abu Bakr, if you have bought me for yourself, then keep me for yourself. But if you have bought me for Allah's sake, then leave me for Allah's work. He was petitioning him to be let free, to be let free. He was still a slave, and this happened after your prophet had died. All right. Now let's get to Timothy in First Peter, because he says that Peter is, Paul, right, is condoning slavery. He's condoning slavery. But if you read in First Timothy 1:10, it says the sexual immoral, men who practice homosexuality, enslavers, liars, perjurers, and whatever else is contrary to sound doctrine. Is contrary to sound doctrine. Paul is explicitly saying that enslavers will not make it into heaven because it is contrary to sound doctrine. And he also petitioned for Philemon to be released as a slave. If he's going to propagate this madness, he's going to have to show me sources of early Christians that practice and held slavery in regard. Like I can show him that most of the Sahaba and Tabi'in practiced in slavery even before and after his prophet Muhammad.
Thank you very much. I don't know why it keeps going off when I don't have it set to ring. Okay, we'll go over to Nadir now. Another 2 minutes. If you guys feel like you could...
No, I think 2 minutes is good. This is good.
I think
it's... Or else we'll be shouting over each other.
Cool.
Okay.
Right. So we're starting now.
As you can see, he's running away from the verse which explicitly states that the slave beating / torture is the slave's calling in life. He's running away from that. But you're not going to... Look, where are you going to run to? I'm not going to let you go. Now, he also misrepresented the Bible where he talked about Philemon freeing a slave, Onesimus. That never happened. He's misrepresenting not only Islam, but he's misrepresenting his own scripture. But what's good is at least he conceded to my argument, Muhammad freed all his slaves. But he said it's contradictory. It's contradictory. Yes, there is a contradiction. There's a contradiction between what the hadith I quoted and your wacky, quacky interpretation of Islam. Nowhere did it say that Bilal remained a slave till his death. The reference which you quoted did not say that. I will appreciate you just please share your desktop like how I'm doing it and show the references which you're talking about. You're just basically at this point lying because you're panicking. You're panicking the word and I by just making up stuff. Look, the point of this debate tonight is that we share our screen and show the exact references we are talking about rather than making things up. It's a well-known fact that Bilal was freed. This is a well-known fact. But I don't have to prove that to you. You have to show evidence to the contrary. So he has accepted the hadith I've given him tonight that Muhammad freed all his slaves. And this is the point, that Islam is a self-terminating system. So saying, Sahaba had slaves, that does not refute my argument that it is a self-terminating system. Okay, so now let's get back to the verse you're running from. The Bible does say inside this verse that the slave beating is the slave's calling in life. It says that how commendable it is that you endure the slave beating and suffer wrongfully. So a psychopath is whipping him. So I will ask you again for the fourth time. These children with amputated hands, is this their calling in life, to be tortured by their slave master?
Do you hear me, Word?
Oh, my bad. I thought I was off.
All good.
Okay,
We'll start it
so
over.
he just lied about Philemon, because it says in Philemon 1:15 through 17, for perhaps this is why he was separated from you for a while, so that you might have him back for good, no longer as a slave, but better than a slave, as a beloved brother. He is especially beloved to me. but even more so to you, both in person and in the Lord. So if you consider me a partner, receive him as you would receive me. And we know Paul was a free man. He's telling the owner, he said, release him and bring him in as a free man. Okay, that's exactly what it's saying.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't ever concede to anything. Nadir is just lying. I said, if you, I acknowledge he had that source, but it's a contradiction in between his own sources. He's not dealing with anything I'm bringing up. He just want to stick on First Peter 2:18, like he has something. He's not dealing with anything that I've brought. He's just sitting here yapping along, trying to get off some clips and calling me the disingenuous one. He is the one that's disingenuous. He is disingenuous, and he's not bringing what I'm bringing up. He's not dealing with it because he know he can't deal with it. So he runs like with his tail tucked between his leg and just stays put. He's not moving. He's not moving because he's running and he's showing himself to be a coward. That's what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
You got 20 seconds left if you want to take it or you want to give your time.
Go ahead.
All right, Nadir, you ready?
Sure. So you nowhere did the story said that the man was free. In fact, the story of Philemon that you're bragging about was used by the slave master. Now, if you can share my screen over here real quick. If you look at the article here from Christianity Today, why did so many Christians support slavery? It was because of the story you're talking about. They said, look, the Apostle Paul returned him back to his slave master as more than a slave, but as a brother. It didn't say he was free. So this story was actually used to justify slavery. But once again, he's in hot pursuit and he's running away from the book of Peter. The book states very clearly here now that the slave beating is your calling in life. Let's read the text very carefully here. Servants, be submissive to your masters with all fear, not only to the good and gentle, but also to the harsh. That's chattel slavery right there, which is an endorsement. So does the Bible endorse slavery? Yes. It goes on. For this is commendable if because of your conscience towards God, one endures grief, suffering wrongfully. But what credit is it to you that when you are beaten for your faults, you take it patiently? So what the false apostle Paul is doing over here, he's marketing Christianity to the slave master. He's basically showing the harmony between slavery and his teaching, because his goal is that you will teach slavery or you teach Christianity to the slaves because it will allow them to take the tortures and beating without question. And he stated that Christianity will look attractive to the slave master. And I'll show you that verse in just a second here. But now here's a verse which you are running away from. It states here, for to this you are called. What is you being called to? The slave beating. He's grooming the slave to meet needs of the evil slave master. Repeat.
We're going to turn it over. We got to stop when the 2 minutes, not an extra 25 seconds each time, Nadir. So we're trying to do what you asked, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. So we're going to turn it back over to Word. You got 2 minutes starting now.
All right, since he's keeping on with this same thing, he won't let it go. So I would directly address this as I have always been, because he's running from his own sources. He's totally running from his own sources, and he's not dealing with it. In the context of the verse, he keep reading it. It is the Judaizers are being harshful to the Christians. They're being very harsh to the Christians, right? And instead of taking up arms, right, and trying to fight them back, they saying that because Jesus Christ said you will be persecuted for my name. You will be persecuted for my name. He is the final judge and arbiter of truth and justice. So Jesus will handle that in behalf of the slaves or the servants, because it's really a servant of the servants on the day of judgment. This is what this verse is talking about. So we're not commanded to take up arms and fight against us. Our persecution is better for our judgment in the hereafter, right? Because we are being persecuted at the hands of some evil, adulterous generations. This is what it is about. Nadir just keeps going on, and he's making up and is doing his own private interpretation. But I want to get back to what Nadir said. He said that Muhammad helped by buying that one slave out of a harsh condition. Well, fine, he helped one out, but in the very same condition that he helped bring one out, he put two back in. So he did nothing. He did nothing but propagate and put more people under those harsh conditions than what was already in them. Great job, Muhammad. Great job. And he's the best moral example for all of mankind. Sure, that was a smart move, Muhammad.
All right. There's 2 minutes. All right, Nadir, we're going to turn it back. Go ahead and start.
Regarding the hadith you're referring to about buying one slave for two blacks, no, he's not putting anybody back into slavery. Again, he's just working within the system to save the life of that one person. But the argument stands unrefuted in tonight's debate. As I have clearly argued an airtight case, it doesn't matter if you're selling a slave here and there because the whole system is self-terminating. You cannot beat a slave. If he gets tired and he says so, you got to kind of accept it, which totally causes system collapse. Give them the best education. When you give the slaves the best education, okay, what do you think they're going to ask for? They're going to ask for their freedom. Slavery doesn't work without forced labor, but Islam forbids that. It says you cannot punish a slave. So the issue tonight, which you need to attack, is my argument that is the Islamic version of slavery is a self-annihilating system. And I also showed inside many references, in fact, let me go back and remember here real quick what I showed you here. It stated very clear that, look, if you see any good in your slave, free him. So the question, the debate, the proposition we are talking tonight is that, does Islam endorse or Christianity endorse slavery? No. Islam is basically causing the system internal collapse by placing these viruses all throughout the system. No forced labor. Nobody can become a slave unless you're a POW, which is in accordance with Geneva Convention. Give the slave the best education that you can. So that's the argument you need to deal with. Now, he's tried to give an explanation of why, the punishment is of the slave torture is allowed. He said, well, you just persecution is better. That's not what the Bible teaches. The Bible never attacks the slave master. The slave master is God in the Bible.
All right, we're turning it back to Word now. Go ahead, Word, 2 minutes on the clock.
Okay, I don't know what land is he living in, but I am systematically breaking down every one of your arguments. Systematically, you're staying in a loop and you're not coming out of your little shell. You're on a hamster wheel and you just keep going and going. So he brought up a hadith that says, if your slave is overburdened, you must go and help him. Okay, well, that's subjective. That's not objective. Subjectively, who's going to say, well, this slave is overburdened? That's the master's job to say, well, you get out there and help him. I'm not going to get out there and help him. I don't believe you're overburdened. You could be faking it. That is subjective. And he's leaving it in the hands. If you leave these viruses in the hands of fallible men, then you will always get fallible results. Point blank, period. It is subjective and it's fluid. And there's no standard to say when is the slave actually overburdened? Who's to decide? If it's at the discretion of the slave owner, well, I don't believe you're overburdened. Get back to work. This is not a better system. It's not a virus, and it's not self-eating. He's just doing mental gymnastics and shows that this is actually propagating and breeding slavery. From the inside out, this is all that it is doing, and he don't have no answers for it. That's why he's only standing on this one thing. He keeps doing it, and this is just what it is. And he says that you get blessings for beating your slaves in the Bible. That's nowhere he said. Nowhere it says that. Show me where the owner gets blessings for beating a slave. He can't provide it. He lied once again. That's all he's doing is up here. He's lying and he's propagating lies. That's all he's doing. And I will address many other things in the coming cross exam, and I'm hoping we can stop the 2 minutes because I want to press you on some things.
All right, that's 2 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and turn it to Nadir. Ready? And
Thank
go
you
ahead.
for handing me the debate tonight. He's given me the rope to hang him with tonight. Listen to what he says. He says, but who is to decide that this is an overburden or anything like that? Can you please share my screen? Precisely the point. But he says, it's the slave master who decides if it's an overburden. Where's your evidence? You see, that is your false assumption, because this is called false assumption of the ignorant, credulous person. Fake. FAIC. Christianity is a fake religion. All they do is just make false assumptions. But he is right. Islam maliciously caused a subjective conundrum, confusion regarding overburden. But the only way to really know for sure, you got to take the slave's word for it. Thank you for handing me the debate. That is the point. This is a virus in the system. It's causing a conundrum. It's causing the problem you are stating. And then it said, you better go out and help him if he's so-called this overburdened stuff. That's an impossible request. No one has the time. Like if you were to ask me to have a slave and you got to help him when he gets allegedly overburdened, I'd say, no, I can't do it. I don't have the time for that. The whole purpose of slavery is so that they can do the job that you don't have time to do. So thank you. This is an internal virus which causes system collapse. It is not possible to go to the large-scale slavery operations are gone in Islam. How can you help 100 or 250 slaves when they, quote, are overburdened? You can never go over this conundrum. Thank you. And so this is an internal virus caused to destroy the institution of slavery. But the text of the Bible does say that the slave beating is your calling in life. So I will ask you for the last time tonight, is the slave beating those children suffered with their amputated hands, is this their calling in life? Yes or no?
Back to
I've
work.
I already answered this time and time again. But thank you, Nadir, for giving me the debate, sir. You just said that one person can own up to 150 to 200 slaves. You are propagating slavery. You don't even know it. He just agreed that one person can have up to 150, 200 slaves. Okay, so what about the slave masters, and also bringing in 424 that they can have any no set amount of slaves, as long as they right hand possess, they can take them and have sex with them. This is what is called sex slavery, my friend. And he's saying that there's no sex slavery. There's no sex slavery, but it's in your Quran, sort of 424. 424, it actually commands and says that all women are permissible except of the ones that are married, except if you own them for a slave. If they're your right hand possessed, you can do what you want with them. Okay, so yes, it does propagate sex slavery, and yes, by Nadir's own admission, that one person can have 150 to 200 slaves at one time. This is by your own admission, Nadir. Thank you for giving me the debate that Islam do in fact condone slavery.
All right, you have 30 seconds left if you want to go ahead.
Okay, I think you might have misheard me. So I think. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Oh shit.
No, James. I mean,
sorry. Yeah, I had it unmuted on one, but yeah, you have 30 seconds left if you wanted to take that last 30. Or if
I got 30 seconds left. I didn't know. Okay, I'm gonna direct you to Sahih Muslim 1438, right? And they was on an expedition, and it says that and the Bil Mustalik, you know about that Bil Mustalik, and it says it took some captive excellent Arab women, and we desired them, for we were suffering from the absence of our wives. We also desired ransom for them, so they're not only gonna have intercourse with them, they're going to sell them later. So we decided to have sexual intercourse with them by absorbing uzl, meaning to withdraw the male organ. This is sex slavery, my friend.
Mm-hmm. Okay, how much more time do we have of this cross-examination period?
We're about 30 minutes or so in, so you got another 20 minutes. Yeah, so we'll start your time.
Okay, thank you.
Right now.
No, there is no sex slavery in Islam. This, once again, is a fake argument, false assumption of the ignorant, credulous person. FAIC. Christianity is a fake religion, but Islam is a fact-based religion. He is just making false assumptions upon the text, stating that these women were raped or they had sex against their will. That is not the case. If so, show it to me. Now, like I said, I've had an entire debate on that, but let me move in for the kill and finish them up. I didn't say that a person can have up to 140 to 200 slaves. I said the exact opposite. I hate to ruin your victory lap, but I said the opposite. You cannot have it in Islam because the text says if they get overburdened, you got to go out and help them. How the heck can you help 140, 200 slaves? You can't. So the large-scale plantations and all of that, that's gone. But the Islamic winning argument tonight that we are seeing here, he is not able to refute that the Islamic system is a self-terminating system. If you look at what Islam is teaching about slaves, you cannot beat a slave. That means you're not going to be able to force him to work. You can't punish him. That means that it's really not worth having a slave. And then the Quran says, free your slaves if you see any good in them. This is self-terminating. Now, I want to get to another Bible. And as you can see, he doesn't want to answer the question about the slave beating being his calling in life. That's fine. But the Bible also says that when you see these tortured children, this will make Christianity look attractive. Now, I do want to share that verse with you because I want to ask him about this verse in the book of Titus. It states over here in Titus chapter 2, verse 9. It says, teach your slaves to be subject to their masters, not talking back. They will make the teachings about God, our Savior, attractive. Are you sharing my screen so I can show this, please? So explain to me, how is it that these tortured children are going to look attractive to me and it's going to make me want to be a Christian? I'm sorry. It says that it'll make Christianity look attractive. Is this just another big lie that the Bible's telling us?
All right. Let me know when I can go.
Yep, go ahead. Starting now.
Okay. You see what he did. He didn't address it. He just said, no, you stinky head, boo-boo, sticky head and boo-boo. That's all he said. And he's crying. He's not addressing it. He's not bringing no evidence. He's bringing all of the stuff that he wrote out himself. He's not even showing sources. He wrote all of this stuff out himself. So, Nadir, I don't buy it. You're not showing sources. You're just bringing up things in Islam that you wrote yourself. So you're giving us your quacky, wacky interpretations, and you're bringing up stuff that is not even, you're not bringing up showing any sources. You're just saying, and you're running to the Bible. You're just saying, that's not true because now because of Titus 2:19. That's all you're doing. That's all he's doing. He's acting like a petulant child, and he's not dealing with the arguments. So even if you even look back in the slaves of the Old Testament, you cannot beat your slave because you will have to be punished. And if you even beat them to death, then you're going to be put to death yourself. He won't bring that up. He won't answer for that because it was already established that you cannot do this. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And if you knock out your slave's tooth, you must let him go. If you black his eye, you must let him go. This is something that you do not do as if you have a actual inventory or investment in someone that is working for you. You can't do this. Slaves are legislated, relegated, and have the same exact rights under statutes and commandments because they will go before a judge and they will have their say in court. That is nothing like chattel slavery. Nothing like that in Islam he haven't presented. All he is saying is, word, you're wrong, and crying and throwing a fit.
All right, we'll go ahead and switch it back to Nadir and start now.
Yeah, now I believe I'm showing my evidences for everything which I'm presenting. I made sure to bring references, but the Bible, what it's doing, it's appeasing the slave master. It's trying to show what Paul is doing. He's trying to show the evil, wicked slave master. He's saying, look, I don't care if you're good or bad. This Christianity is beneficial to you. And in fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to convince these slaves to patiently accept their slave torture, slave beating. And he's telling big lies. He's saying that this torture is your calling in life. That is what the Bible says. The Bible does promote a chattel slavery because the text explicitly says to be submissive and to obey the evil slave master. But let's get back to this verse in Titus over here. Can you share my screen real quick, please?
You're good.
It says inside chapter 2, verse 9 through 10. You remember those crippled children, I'm sorry, those amputee children? Look what the Bible says. It says that to patiently accept the slave beating for the master. Now remember, Islam teaches that if you beat a slave, you burn in hell for the rest of eternity. You burn in hell. I don't know for eternity or not, but you'll burn in hell. Okay, but look what what Titus says over here. That he says, teach slaves to be subject to their masters in everything. Okay, not talk back. Shut your mouth, boy. That's New Testament Christianity. And it states over here, so that in every way, that includes the picture I showed you with the amputees, they will make the teachings about God, our Savior, attractive. Now, to the wicked, evil slave master, yes, it will look very attractive. But for us, silencing the oppressed makes a religion morally repulsive, not appealing. So how is this another big lie in your Bible? Explain how this is true.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, I already answered this, and he just keep propagating. It's the same answer that I would give you, right? That these people that is under cruel punishment and harsh punishment, as you say, and you still got to show that this is actually chattel slavery. You still haven't showed that. If they're under harsh punishment, they will be vindicated by God. They will be vindicated. So that is how a Christian is supposed to be if they are found themselves in the situation. This is all he has to do, right? Is read the verses in context instead of cherry picking, waffling, and pulling everything out and twisting the scriptures to his own framework and to his own mindset. Does not say anything like that. Of course, there's going to be persecution. Jesus said we will be persecuted. And he's just validating the scriptures at this time. He's validating every word that Jesus said because of this. Thank you, Nadir, by proving our Bible correct. Because if Jesus said this was going to happen and we see this happening and we see that these people are being persecuted, then that is because Jesus had already said it and you are validating what Jesus said. Thank you, Nadir. He's your God and Savior. Repent from Islam and come and follow him if you believe in his words that much and if you believe in the Bible that much, because you are validating it and you don't know it. So he's still running from his own Islamic sources. He's still not even dealing with anything that I brought from Islam. He's stuck on this because he cannot give credibility to anything that he says except for his little typed out little paragraphs that he made up on this screen. He can't deal with the arguments. He keeps running from it and he won't do it. He's just showing that he's a coward.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. So there is actually some agreement we have here. You're saying that they will be vindicated by God. We can agree on that. That's true. But you said that the slave beating is persecution. No, it's not. Not according to the New Testament. The slave beating is his calling in life. This is what makes God happy. So what the false apostle Paul, this demon prophet you're following, he is grooming the slave to meet the needs of his evil slave master. You see, if you go back to the passage which I showed you, no comment of restraint was given to the slave master for his cruel treatment. Why? He explains himself inside Titus chapter 2, verse 9 through 10. He wants to make Christianity to look attractive to him. So you look at these slaves. Look, their hands are cut off. They're whipped. There are stripe marks all over their body. But guess what? The text says they don't talk back. So you call them every racial slur in the book. You could call them the N-word. These slaves do not call back. They don't talk back. And when you see that, can you please share my screen, Mike? I'm quoting Titus chapter 2, verse 9 through 10. When you see that, it'll make you want to be a Christian. True, to the evil, wicked slave master, it will, but not to most decent human beings. So this is yet another example of how the Bible is concocting huge, malicious falsehood crafted to defend the cruel and oppressive slave master. Colossal lies forged to prop up a heartless tyrant who thrives on human misery. This is what you are supposed to refute tonight. You are, first of all, supposed to show that no, Islam is not a terminating system, which you failed to do, but you're also supposed to show how are these verses true. These look like big, malicious lies being told to defend a cruel, oppressive slave master.
All right, that's 2 minutes.
Explain to me how these slaves are going to make Christianity look attractive to me or to any other person.
All right, brother, that
Please
was 2
explain how
minutes.
this works if it's not a lie.
I'll let you go a little over there. We got about, I'd say, 8 to 10 minutes left, give or take, in the open dialogue. So if you guys have some questions, you want to get the super chats in before we get to the Q&A, we got some good ones. We'll try to not do timed responses on the Q&A to make it flow a little better.
Sure.
But if I ask you to let the other person talk and you just keep blowing past me, I will mute you, whoever does it. Just wanted to put that out there, just so we can keep it cordial and have time for all the super chats, because we got about 35 minutes worth of those we'll go through. And then if there isn't a ton of super chats, I might read a couple other chats if people have some good questions. But I do encourage it. Support the channel. It's an independent channel, and we're trying to host DebateCon 7 coming up here on the 31st. So get your tickets right there. 20% off with the code 20FROMSTREAM. We got another 24 hours to do that. All right, so we're gonna go back to Word. You got 2 minutes.
All right, so Nadir, he's a broken record. He's not dealing with anything. He just keeps doing the same thing over and over, starting to get boring at this point. But I will read still, he's not dealing with anything that I bring from Islam. If you go to Riyadh Salihin 324, it says, it has been narrated that Maimuna bint al-Harith, right, had set free a slave girl without the prophet's permission. When her turn came, because the prophet used to visit all of his wives, she made mention of that and him saying, did you know I had set a slave girl free? He said, have you indeed? She replied, yes. He then remarked, had you given her to your maternal uncles, you would have your reward increased. So if you would have kept her in slavery and given her to your maternal uncles, you would have got a greater reward. MashaAllah, alhamdulillah. Keep them in slavery and keep them in slavery so they won't be free. Oh, that's very, very good, Nadir. That's very good. So this is Titus 2:9. I already deal with all of that. He's not even dealing with anything that I brought. We also see that a man who had no property of emancipated 6 slaves at his time of the death. When the prophet was informed about it, he spoke severely of him. So he talked down on a man for freeing slaves. He then called them, divided into 3 sections, cast lots among them, and he emancipated 2, but he kept 4 in slavery. He kept 4 of them in slavery. All we see is Muhammad keeping people in slavery. He's not freeing anyone. When someone let him go, he comes and overrules it and then bring them back into custody, into slavery. On the contrary. Okay, I'll deal with that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Back
so
to you.
This is an issue. Yeah, this is an issue of intelligence. He lacks the intelligence to have a debate with me. As I have stated very clearly, show the references for what you're talking about. There is no such thing as keeping people into slavery in Islam and not allowing them to be freed when the Quran stated very clearly, free the slaves if you see any good in them. So these are all just fabrications, misrepresentations, and I shouldn't have to chase after every false claim he makes. Come on, that's not fair. Show your evidence for what you're talking about. Now, the point which I wanted, you're like, look, there's a... Yeah, I'm sorry. There's a greater reward for keeping a slave. Look, the issue about this, which you are not able to refute.
Sorry, Nadir, you glitched
Islam
out there for a
didn't
second.
just automatically condemn slavery. Say, okay, there you go. No more can own slaves. Why? because it was trying to avert the humanitarian catastrophe which would have occurred after that. For example, when they ended slavery in America, millions of slaves died in the cold. They died of because there was no infrastructure to hold them. So what Islam did, it made it temporary, enough time so that they can get the best education, number one, as I showed you from the hadith. And also, remember, every slave had the slave girls had VIP access to the Prophet of Islam.
All right.
That VIP access, what it would allow them to do is help them get, if there's some kind of job or something they could do when they get freedom. This all provides that opportunity. So when the time for freedom comes, now they're hitting the ground running. So that's the strategy of the self-terminating system of Islam.
Okay, we're going to hit it back to Word now. Go ahead, Word.
All right, so he's just yapping at this point. I'm going to bring you to Saint Gregory of Nyssa. Saint Gregory of Nyssa, he is in his homily 4 on the homilies of the Ecclesiastes of the church. This is what he says: "As for the person who appropriates to himself what belongs to God and attributes to himself power over the human race, as if he were their Lord. The arrogant statement, transgression, human nature makes this person regard himself as different from those over whom he rules." Right? He says, what are you saying? You condemn man who is free and autonomous to servitude, and you contradict God by perverting the natural law. Man was created as Lord over the earth. You have put under the yoke of servitude and a transgressor and rebel against the divine precept. How can you transgress the servitude bestowed upon you and raise yourself against man's freedom by stripping yourself as a servitude, the properless beast? So that is Gregory of Nyssa. We see that he is actually against slavery, and we can read in the placefortruth.org, Gregory of Nyssa, right? And we see that Saint Augustine, to his letter to Alypius, is this is kind of a long letter, so I summarize it. In Galatia, they was going around kidnapping men, women, because they're more vulnerable, and putting them into slavery. And Augustine and his immediate followers, it says immediately our believers, he wasn't there at the time, but he says they freed about 120 people, some from the ship where they were embarked, and some from an isolated location where they had been hidden while waiting for their turn to board. Right? So we can see that these forefathers and these church fathers went out and actually got rid of slavery. They was helping people that was enslaved. This is not a concept within Islam. Islam don't have nothing like this. They actually endured the slavery.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's
How much
2
time
minutes,
left?
brother. We're gonna
Okay, is my 2 minutes?
One more back and forth here.
Okay. So I think it was. Shall I go and get started?
Sorry, I had to plug my charger in. That's probably why it was a little bit laggy. All right, so Nadir, go ahead and start.
Okay, can you share my screen real quick, please, before I start? Okay, so the problem is the Bible is concocting huge malicious lies, like the slave beating will make Christianity look attractive. The slave beating is his calling in life. So now you're quoting some popes or something like that. You should stick with the Bible. And the issue is about lying, just telling us lies to our face. That's the problem with the Bible. But now I want to bring up another issue. As I've pointed out, Islam is a self-terminating system. It implanted many viruses. But teaching, like giving the slave VIP access, they give them the best education. So the slavery becomes a burden rather than a benefit to the slave master, which he was not able to refute. So there's a problem here that a 7th century man is independently inventing 20th century ethics. And this is like a moral quantum leap, which is basically getting the values of today's time, and we find them in the 7th century. This is an anachronism. This is something which How is it that a man 1400 years ago could have this type of moral values? Because people back then didn't think like that. So I did pose a question to Grok, ChatGPT, the different AI engines, which religious people hate, but I'm going to have to bring it up. Okay, if you ask them, what's the explanation for this? How do you explain this? Here you could see on my screen from ChatGPT, and it doesn't give the same answer all the time. Sometimes it gives a little bit different answer, but they do accept. It says here the final answer: a supernatural explanation makes the most sense for what we are finding in Islam. And it goes on to say that there are fewer assumptions. Now, I did ask Grok aired out on me, but normally it will say supernatural makes the best explanation for these moral teachings that we find in Islam. Okay, so now Gemini stated the following: if I have to choose one that offers the cleanest explanation for this anachronism, telling people a slave girl, give them the best education, the supernatural
was 2
divine
minutes
explanation
there.
is the
All right,
most
word.
economical choice.
You get the last word on this one, and then we're gonna get into the audience Q&A, and get your super chats in now if you want to ask some questions. Thank you so much, whoever just did that. Right as I said it, that was perfect. So we'll do this, and then do you guys want to do like a 5-minute closing?
Yeah, let's do a 5-minute closing.
That's fine with me.
All right, we're gonna go to word here now. Go ahead.
All right, so I gave him scripture, I gave him early church, and then let's go to historians. This is Slavery in the Islamic World by Schumacher, and it's talking about the New Testament and Old Testament slavery. Slavery by Europeans was surely bad, but slavery in Islam was vastly more brutal. The largest slave traders and owners of slaves in history were the Arabs, whereas many descendants of the European slaves survived. The slaves of the Islamic people were seldom able to increase and thus perished. As a result, many people think that the only Western people held slaves. In contrast, while the transatlantic slave trade lasted 400 years, Arabs plundered the African continent south of the Sahara for 1,300 years. The largest portion of the millions of deported Africans died as a consequence of inhumane treatment and systematically used castration. Castration. Egon Flegg says of the Islamic slavery that it was the largest such system in world history. The first world economic system called for a steady and enormous influx of slaves. It was also for this reason that permanently fighting wars and incessantly attacking non-Muslim neighbors was of decisive importance, because they wanted to get slaves. All of it was slave. They established a whole economic system around slavery. The Arabs, the ones that followed Muhammad, the ones that Nadir is up here actually propagating for, these are the most known and well-established slave traders in human history for 1,300 years. And it was tens of millions of Africans that was plundered and castrated at the hands of the Arabs, which propagated this chattel slavery in the harshest of conditions in the desert. They didn't take care of them well enough that most of them died. You can still see ancestors of slaves from the Atlantic slave trade, at least in the Americas. I am one today. You don't see this in the Arab nation. You don't see lineages of slaves, black slaves in Arab nations after they propagated this and induced this system for 1,300 years, because they died from the harsh, inhumane treatment at the hands of the Arabs that Muhammad started.
All right, guys, that was your 2 minutes. I'm gonna let Nadir begin his 5-minute opening or closing statement now. Guys, this is one of your last chance to get the super chats in, and then we'll have about 35 minutes or so, give or take. We can go over it a little more if the guys are down. Don't want to keep it too long, but we'll do that right after these 5-minute closing statements. And I do ask that you keep it to 5 or less, please, so that we can get into the questions. All right, Go ahead, Nadir, you're up.
What's witnessed here is a cowardly retreat from the scriptures. Good. Now he's talking about the Arab slave trade, which I didn't get a chance to address. I mean, this is the first time he's bringing it up. So let me go. Can you share my screen? Just go ahead and put that argument inside ChatGPT. Grok, they do a very good explanation of refuting this nonsense. Islam is defined by its scripture, not what some Arab has done, because Arabs are Jews, Christians, apostates, and others. So now I did ask the question to ChatGPT, is this a logically coherent argument? Arab slave trade, therefore Islam is bad. Here's what it says. No, it's not a logically coherent argument. It commits the fallacy of composition and assumes causation from association. It's a logical fallacy. The premise don't logically prove that Islam, a belief system, is the author of historical acts of some people who identified as Muslims. But like I said, they're both Jews, Christians, and apostates who are Arabs. But the big win tonight in tonight's debate, he was not able to disprove the claim that Islam, the slavery which Islam temporarily allowed, it is a self-terminating system. It terminates itself by putting all kinds of viruses into the slavery system so that it causes internal collapse. And I think we saw some very big anachronisms. Like, okay, gives the slave the best education. Every slave gets a VIP access to me. These are not the teachings of the 7th century. If you were to ask this question, I want you to pick it up where we leave off. If you were to ask this question, where do these teachings come from? Which, and in fact, you can go ahead and let me give you my question right here, which I asked Grok and well, if I can find it, listen to what they say. And it is not, they don't give the same answer all the time, but they do most of the time acknowledge the supernatural is the best explanation. Let me finish what it was, like ChatGPT has basically conceded that. It states here, my assessment, the supernatural and divine explanation is the most economical choice for explaining why the teachings feel like they just dropped in from the future. Those are the values of today's time. Give slaves the best education. Why? Because the human explanation requires us to believe in a statistical miracle that one man in a vacuum of information managed to independently invent a moral framework that the rest of the world would take another 1,200 years to codify into international law. So look, this is AI. Now, of course, you can debate with it. Definitely. I just want you to start the discussion. You don't have to just accept it because it's AI. But my point here is it's a valid argument. What we are seeing in Islam is that there are teachings in it which a human being 1,400 years ago could not have known. He could not have uttered these words. Yeah, let's give them the best education. Never beat a slave. Never punish them. And putting these type of viruses into the system to cause internal collapse, like creating a problem of overburdening them. Well, don't overburden them, and you better help them if you do. That's a huge conundrum. And so the issue here is the difference between Islam and Christianity, what we're finding here, is that Islam clearly condemns slave beating, but the Bible fully endorsed it and actually claimed that the slave beating is the slave calling in life / torture. And it's not just that the Bible is endorsing it, but it's telling you these malicious lies, like that the slave beating will make a Christianity look attractive. No, it doesn't. These are big fat lies that the Bible is telling to your face, and my opponent is just blindly believing it. He never showed how these teachings are true, but the issue is, does the Bible promote slavery? Yes, because what Paul is doing, he's trying to show a win-win situation between slavery and the New Testament. He wants a slave master to see the benefit of the New Testament so he can teach Christianity to his slaves, so the slaves can be docile and accept the torture which they are about to receive. These can only be the words of Lucifer, the devil himself. And I advise a Christian, leave the slave master, the slave beating religion, and join the religion of truth, which is a nightmare for the slave master, where now he has to educate him. But I think what is so nice about Islam, it looked at slaves and it looked at them as intellectuals. You give them the best education. Okay, that's why it allowed a temporary period of slavery to take place, which is actually not slavery at all because there's no slave beating involved in that. Sorry, my light just went out. But the point here is the big takeaway I think in all of this is how one book blesses and
10
sanctifies
seconds.
slave beating, while one book condemns it and sends those people to the hellfire. So that's how Islam destroyed slavery by
All
planting
right.
these internal viruses in it, which my opponent was
All
not
right,
able
that's your
to
5
refute.
minutes. Thank you very much for keeping it tight. All right, Word, you got 5 minutes on the clock starting now.
I thought he already took his 5 minutes.
No, that was just the last
No.
2 minute back and forth for the 50-minute open dialogue.
All right, excellent. I appreciate you, Mike, for hosting this debate. I appreciate modern day debates for having me. And we see the stereotypical full Muslim bot mode from Nadir here. He couldn't refute nothing. He couldn't bring his own sources. So he went and got his chat buddies, the AI buddies, to try to help him out to get him out of this predicament. He couldn't formulate his own argument, so he had to go and put him in Chat GPT. So now I have to debate Chat. I'm pretty sure I was debating Chat GPT and Gronk and all of these other AI AI programs. This whole debate because he's literally just in bot mode. He's been in bot mode for the last hour. He haven't presented nothing new. He haven't presented anything of substance, and then he caps it all off by bringing AI. While the whole time, I stuck to my scripture and his scripture. I presented historical evidence. I presented early church and how they reviewed and viewed slavery. Paul, Gregory of Nyssa, Augustine. I have did all of this, and then he brings up Chat GPT, AI, Gronk. This is wild. The only other thing that he brought was that some of the things that he typed out personally on his own Microsoft Word thing that he brought up, and he just typed it out. Oh yeah, I'm going to get him with this one. Come on, Nadir, you got to be more academic and genuine than this. You have to be. You're too old for this madness. You've been debating for 20 some years, and this is the stunts you pull. This is crazy. He didn't deal with any of my arguments. When I brought up sex slavery, all he said was, "Nuh-uh, you're delusional. Nuh-uh, don't work in a debate, my guy. Nuh-uh, just doesn't work. You have to provide evidence. You have to provide evidence." He didn't deal with any of my Old Testament passages that I brought up because he knows that it shows that it is a distinguishing between a chattel slavery,
2.5
right?
minutes.
Chattel slavery and servitude. And this is all because I gave him Exodus 21. I gave him that there should be one law for the servant and for the free man. You beat your slave and you unalive him, you die. You black his eye, he gets set free. You knock out his tooth, he gets set free. He can't show any of that from Islam. And when I bring out historical references, he laughs at it and acts like it's a problem that I'm actually appealing to history because the Islamic slave trade is by hands and head and shoulders above worse than anything that he can find in the Old Testament, New Testament, or even more modern day Atlantic slave trading, if that's what he want to compare it to. There haven't been any other slave traders like the Arabs. If they're the king, they're the kings of kings. They're the Lord of lords when it comes to slave trading. But he want to sit and propagate, well, Muhammad got rid of all that. Well, you got billions of Muslims that didn't think your prophet was much of a prophet because they didn't follow his words. They actually did contrary to what he believed. If Muhammad got rid of all of the slaves in his time before he died, well, how on earth would all of these millions of slaves and these Muslims bring them back to the Arabian Peninsula? They wasn't following your prophet very well. They didn't believe him because he was contradictory, and everything that he brought up was contradictory. He didn't deal with anything that I brought.
About 55 seconds left.
Right. So I hope everyone that's looking at this realizes this, that he's stuck on two passages for 45 minutes because he tried to bait me into something that I'm more clever. I'm not gonna get baited into these sleazy little tactics and these misinterpretations of scriptures and these cherry picking, and everything that he even brought was of his own imagination and that he typed up. That's not how you debate. You don't come with your own quacky, wacky interpretations and then try to hold me to a standard that you made up in your head. That's not how it does. That's not how it goes. You deal with the text, you exegete the text, and then you bring it to its logical conclusion, which obviously you can't do because you have to go and use ChatGPT and Gronk to actually validate any of the madness that you said.
All right, thank you, Word, for your 5-minute closing there. That wasn't the 5-minute closings weren't particularly in James's format that he emailed us, but you guys both had a lot to say, so I kind of wanted to give you that. And we will get into the super chats now. I'm going to admit to the chat, I was having a hard time keeping it together every time I heard Gronk, so that was really funny. I know you guys like that too. All right, so let's see who's got the first super chat of the day. Is One Way Apologetics. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right.
You sound fine to me.
Sweet. One Way Apologetics for $5. Thank you very much. He said, let's go, Word. Easy W here. And you guys don't have to reply to everything. You can just acknowledge it, and then we can move on. If something's contentious, I mean, we could stick on that for just a second. Oh, this stupid thing's not staying up. All right. Even Lord.
Oh, did he have a question?
No, he was just saying, he was just giving you little kudos there. He said, easy W.
Appreciate that, Imam. Appreciate that, Imam.
Even Lord 7825 for $2 said, how is slavery bad pragmatically? It can be good. If you guys want to answer that.
Yeah, I can answer that very easily. Like, for example, slavery is practiced in prison. They force them they're the property of the state. So in that case, yes. But where it's bad is inside the book of Peter, when it literally states that you will obey the harsh slave master, which is chattel slavery. And it looked at the beating and said, this is your calling in life to get that beating. That's bad. So, but the problem here, which my opponent was not able to refute, is that the Bible is concocting huge malicious falsehoods to defend the cruel and oppressive slave master. Colossal lies, like a slave, that slavery will make the New Testament look attractive, as we read inside Titus chapter 2, verse 9. And these are just colossal lies forged to prop up a heartless tyrant who thrives on human misery. These are bold-faced lies
let's keep it
which
to one,
you are believing in.
One response and not a shotgun of responses. I appreciate it. We have to keep it going. Did you want to say anything to that, Word?
Yeah, sure, I do.
Okay. Why is slavery bad pragmatically?
Well, I think pragmatically, it's just in our Bible, there is no moral standard that it is attached to slavery as in itself. The practice, because it can be bringing people out of poverty and giving them well-being and sharing your wealth, almost like wealth distribution, that people that have it unto the less fortunate. Well, the problem is, and it occurs, if you are harsh, if you are overdo them, if you treat them like they're subhuman, right? And then that is a more moral standard that our God would just not allow. Because time after time, it reminds the Israelites that you should not rule ruthlessly, or you do these things over the ones that you are have under your supervision. Because he reminds them that they was once sojourners and strangers in the land of Egypt. So our God would not bring them out and then once again propagate it and let them do something that's injustice to another race or tribe. So inherently, I don't think it is. It's just how you treat them once you have them, in your custody.
Okay. Awesome. Now that I messed up my camera enough, we got One Way Apologetics for $5 again. Question for Nadir. Sunan an Nasai 4621. Sorry if I said that wrong. Says Muhammad sold 2 black slaves for 1 Arab slave. Why did Muhammad do this?
It is totally. We've already talked about this, inside the debate in detail. Maybe you've missed it, but as I said, the slave, which was what she was ransoming for, his life was in danger. Why? Because he pledged that Hadith said he pledged allegiance to Prophet Muhammad, and people were being oppressed, and especially the slaves. They were being tortured to death. And there's many stories about that. So he was saving that man's life. But the argument here tonight, which I want the audience to grapple with, is Islam this alleged slavery in Islam, which really it's not slavery, because by definition, slavery, you have to have forced labor, but Islam doesn't have that, so it cannot be slavery. But the question is it a self-terminating system based on the evidence I presented to you? That's what I want the audience to try to grapple with and try to say, no, this is or it isn't. And so I look forward for you to engage with the material of this debate rather than trying to win the debate after the debate, because my opponent was not able to refute the fact that, yes, Islamic system of slavery, which actually is not slavery, we just don't have a better word for it, is a self-terminating system.
All right. Next question. It's underscore.
Okay. I don't respond.
No, that was. You can.
Towards me,
You can.
yeah.
It was directed to him, though. You want to take a
Yeah,
quick?
that was just-
I won't be long.
Okay. Yeah. Muhammad
Yeah.
sold 2 black slaves for 1 Arab slave. Why did Muhammad do this? Was the question.
Yeah, because now Nadir, he has something wrong with, he can't do simple math, because if he took one out that was in danger, and then he put 2 back in, he just doubled up the population at least by 2 than it was already previously. So he didn't he took 1 out of danger, but he put 2 back in danger. Good job, Muhammad. Very good. He couldn't read. Obviously, he couldn't do math either.
All right. Next question. It's underscore apologetics for $6.99. Thank you very much. Nadir is pride talking. In fact, read the VR 16 and get the context. Muslims focus on debate instead of the truth. Nadir is 1. I'm limited on words. Well, that's because you got a super chat more, sir. All right. You want to respond to that?
Yeah, he's attacking me and not my arguments. This is called the ad hominem, which I do welcome, because it shows that I've argued an airtight case. Look, we've seen 2 spectacular miracles in Islam. Number one, look, we've had a debate for about 2 hours, but could he show any objection against the Quran? No, he couldn't. Okay, he's attacking what Arabs did, not the scripture itself. What I want to also point out, look, if you look at the moral teachings of Islam, all the AI engines do agree that these are way before their time. Majority of the time, they will agree that this is something supernatural. The teachings in Islam are supernatural. My opponent attacks ChatGPT and the AI because they are AI.
Okay.
This is called a genetic fallacy.
I don't know if that was entirely the question there, so we got to move on before you go too far into the genetic fallacy part.
I would ask the audience to engage with my arguments rather than attacking me personally or bringing up side issues.
All right. Well, we're gonna.
Right. Can I just make a comment?
Yeah, we're gonna let you go ahead now.
I won't be long. So, Nadir, every time I brought up something from your Quran, you just screamed out and you you get mad and just run away, like you just got beat on the basketball court and you took your ball home because you can't deal with it. All right, and I'm not just refuting AI just simply because it's AI. Everyone knows that these AI engines give 60 to 70% wrong answers, and they also can be manipulated, and they learn what you believe, and they adhere, right? And they soothe your ears and then giving you answers. So of course his AI pretty much know he's a Muslim and how he thinks. So he's going to give him Muslim favorable answers to it. That's why it's not objective in every sense, because they can be programmed and trained into giving certain responses. This is why we reject AI in a actual debate like this.
Okay. Super big shout out to Chef Secret Sauce Nasty. That's a fantastic screen name there. He sent a Modern Day Debate gift membership. Let's get some more of those if anybody's down. That's how you're going to watch the live stream if you're not able to make it on the 31st at DebateCon in Houston. That's going to be an official DebateCon event, DebateCon 7. 20% off in the with the code right here. All right, next question. Oh, it's by Chef Secret Sauce Nasty. So he sent the membership and he asked, "Gentlemen, please, for the sake of me sending money to support my favorite debate channel, could all three of you please share with me your favorite kind of pizza? For example, mine is taco pizza. Yes, it's messy. I don't care," he says. For $20, thank you very much. I'm not a big pizza guy, so I'm sorry to break your heart there. I don't know if you were gonna mail me one after someone doxes me, but yeah, don't. All right, you guys want to answer that?
Well, yeah, I guess it's kind of funny he mentioned that. I got actually one of these tickets from Blaze Pizza, free pizza. Cauliflower pizza is the one I'm probably my most favorite, just because it's less sugar in it, and so yeah.
Yeah, I'm a regular old, guy.
Pepperoni.
Give me a lot of meat. Give me a lot of meat. I take the meat lovers. Put every meat on there: ham, bacon, pepperoni, whatever you got. Put it on there.
I see a couple people in the chat call it that, actually. Or
Oh,
I don't know, maybe they were talking about what
it
Nadir
is.
said. I don't know, but or they're just saying their own. All right, next question. One Way Apologetics again. Thank you very much, sir, for your repeated support. $5. Question for Nadir: what kind of lives did the two black slaves have that Muhammad sold for one Arab slave?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is all irrelevant. The Islamic argument which you are supposed to be grappling with is that two arguments. Number one, Islam is presented a self-terminating system which destroys the institution of slavery from within. You're not able to grapple with this argument. You're not able to deal with the argument which I've presented here. Secondly, the anachronistic miracle. Those teachings which you find in Islam, a human being in the 7th century could not have come up with those arguments. I mean, with that type of information. The point, and now what all the false religions like Jews, Christianity, Hinduism, they're all saying the same thing about AI. Oh, it's 60 to 70% wrong. Why? Because the AI destroys the logic which they present, which allows them to believe in this religion.
I'm going to redirect this back to the question and give you one more shot to answer it. What kind of lives did the two black slaves have?
It's been addressed 100 times in tonight's debate.
Well, you don't have to respond in detail. You can just say, I addressed this already.
The issue, going back to the issue, it is in no way shows a promoting slavery. Those were the rules of the time. He never set the price. He never, set or endorsed the slavery here. He is trying to save the life of the one person. Those two slaves were not Muslim, but that one slave is a Muslim. He gave Pledge of Allegiance. That's why it's like okay to put two back in and take that one out who you can save his life. But this in no way shows an endorsement of slavery, which is what the topic of tonight's debate is about. All
right. Go ahead, Word, if you want to say something real quick. Otherwise, I'll go to the next question.
Yeah, it just get worse and worse with him, right? he just admitted that basically a Muslim's life is double the worth of two non-Muslims, because that is the price that Muhammad sent these other two back into slavery, because this guy was a Muslim, a believer, and these other two wasn't. So now and which is interesting, it says at the title header of that hadith, selling animals for animals of the different quality. So these slaves was considered inhumane animals. That is the whole thing about it. It just keep getting worse and worse for you, Nadir. He doubled up, put two back in, and then the reason why he did it is because they wasn't Muslim.
All right. Thank you for that. Next question was from its_apologetics again. We appreciate your support. $6.99. He says, one key tip to dealing with Muslims: when they quote a scripture, always read 3 verses before. I can debate this guy with my eyes closed on blind faith. Sounds like we got another challenger for you, Nadir.
Look, in terms of the challenge, it took 30 years for Christians to come to debate this topic. You could go and look in YouTube, Islam, Christianity, and slavery. All your coward Christian apologists, from David Wood to God Logic or whoever, they have ran away from this challenge. Why? Because the Bible endorses slave beating. It blesses it and calls it its calling in life. And they know that the Bible invents malicious lies and that cannot be defended, as my opponent could not defend the malicious, evil teachings of his religion, of his book. So it's been 30 years since Christians have been able to come forward to debate this topic. The only reason that my opponent has come tonight is because he's young, he's dumb, and he's naive, and he's high on Christ. But the smart ones will never debate this topic because it has the potential to lead millions of Christians out of Christianity into Islam, like it did in the 60s. But, why should you come forward to debate me? Why don't you ask your big boys like God Logic, like David Wood? I already have a video of him running away from this debate challenge. So there is no problem of, Muslims not coming forward. It's the Christians who have been running for 30 years.
Okay. And Word, do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, that's so lovely. I'm dumb, but I'm smart enough to cook you in your measly historic debate. They're not running from you because they're scared of the debate. They're running to get away from the madness that you propagate doing these debates. You're not scary at all. You're not scary. All right. And even if I'm new to the scene, that's pitiful because you're getting proven to be a wacko at the hands of me. All right. So maybe it's your time. Maybe I was destined to put you out. Now let's get back to the actual topic.
All right. Reformed Disciple, I saw your comment. I was not. And I'll leave it at that. So Big Hellananthus for $5 says, quote, "Shut your mouth, boy," end quote. And he attributed that to Nadir. He revealed himself.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm only when I say "shut your mouth, boy," that actually is quoting Titus chapter 2, verse 9 through 10. Can you share my screen real quick here? It says here, "Teach your slaves to be subject to their masters in everything. Try to please them, not to talk back to them. Shut your mouth, boy." That's how. So when you take this verse, you would apply it to that situation. And so it states here that the slave tortures, and when you see these slaves who don't talk back, they've just been tortured, as we read inside 1 Peter. The text says they will make the teachings about God, our Savior, attractive. I've been asking my opponent tonight, how does seeing a slave who doesn't talk back, who's just been tortured, okay, how does that make slavery look attractive to me? It doesn't. This is a verse which Paul is trying to appease the wicked, evil slave master so that Christianity can look attractive to him, so that he can then take the gospel and allow it to be taught to the slaves. That was his game plan here.
All right.
But what my point here is that for most normal people, silencing the oppressed makes the religion look morally repulsive, not appealing. This is a big fat lie in your Bible, the Word, and you've been running from this verse all night tonight. Please explain how, your time is coming up. Explain how seeing a slave shut up who's just been tortured, how that will make me want to be a Christian. Can you please explain that to us?
All right. Word, you want to say something real quick?
Yeah, Nadir is just keep on just putting his own interpretation in the text. Shut your mouth, boy. I think you need to take your own advice because you just sound stupid at this point. And he said it's to make slavery look attractive. That's not at all what it's saying. It's saying so God, our Savior, attractive. So that is what hold on.
It's the same thing.
Hey, I didn't cut you off. You off. Slavery is not a religion. You're just being silly because it's showing you that even through persecution of these people, then they don't have to take up arms because God, their Savior, will fight for them. Now that's all through the whole Bible.
What?
That's through the whole Bible. So, Nadir, I
What?
didn't
Where
cut
did
you
that
off,
come
bro.
from?
Let it give him a
I didn't
couple
cut
more
you off.
seconds. Let him do his thing. And
He's just
then
making up
we'll
stuff.
move on to
No,
the next one.
He's just being ignorant at this time. Yeah, so that's what that verse is talking about. I answered this verse 3 times, and you think you got a gotcha moment. That's why you can't move on. You stuck on this same verse, and I've answered this 3-4 times during this debate. You saying deal with the contents of the debate. You deal with what I bring
Well,
up. You
I don't get
haven't
it.
did that
So
yet.
it says a God, our Savior, is going to be attractive from these slaves. Explain exactly how did this work again? Explain it to me. I don't understand.
You guys, yeah, you can riff on this if you want to, word, or it's up to you.
I'm done with it. I tracked already did this.
Is it a lie
3-4
or is it
times.
true? Is it a lie?
All right.
I'm done with him on this.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
done with him.
the debate
Like,
parts, it's up for grabs, here and there on the Q&A. The important thing is we're about halfway through with our super chats. If you guys want to send a couple more, keep it going. These gentlemen, we got about 6 or 7 left, and we'll probably still be able to wrap it up before too late. But next one comes from Not Sunny Extra 3578 for $10. Big thank you, sir. Nadir, if you see good in your slave, free them. If they're overburdened, help them. Well, I don't see good and they're not overburdened, so I say, so they'll just be my slave forever. How am I wrong?
So the issue here is you got to be honest. Okay, honest with yourself. So I'm glad you raised this. So you are seeing the self-terminating system, but I think the question here is, I see a hole in it. I see a hole in it that maybe I could just come up with my own assumptions or something like that. Well, the answer is very clear. If you look at the hadith, you now go to Prophet Muhammad. See how Prophet Muhammad interpreted the Quran. He freed all his slaves. Okay, he freed all his slaves. So, the issue here is, you can find malicious people. You can find people who may hold on to his slave. That's true. But remember, slavery is a burden for the slave master. You can't beat him. You cannot punish him. And if he gets tired, allegedly, you got to go out and help him. So it's not, even if you were to be dishonest with a text, as you are pointing out, it's still, every slave master is going to eventually relinquish his slave because it's just not worth it. Now, compare that with the Bible. The Bible, the false apostle Paul, he's actually appeasing the slave master. He's grooming the slave to meet the evil needs of his wicked, evil desires, because he's trying to show how the slavery will work hand in hand with the New Testament. So I think it's an open and shut case here in terms of which book promotes slavery and which book doesn't. And what I'm really happy tonight, none of the questions tonight here are able to argue an intelligent case that Islam promotes slavery. Nobody can do that. Even my opponent cannot do that. He's just mocking and ridiculing certain passages. So I think the debate has been decided on this, on just the questioning alone here.
All right. Well, we'll let Word say something if he'd like.
Yeah, it won't be long. If we know that Paul is a Pharisee of Pharisees, Paul was very familiar with the Old Testament. Matter of fact, he knew exactly what the Old Testament actually taught, and he was in line with it. In the Old Testament, it says that you shall have the same rule for the sojourner as for the native, for I am the Lord your God. This is what he's talking about. He's trying to put words in Paul's mouth. He's bringing up all of these other things that just don't, is just not in the text. It's just not in the text. He's reading and doing eisegesis in the text, right? And he's trying to make Paul out to be someone that is propagating and actually condoning slavery, chattel slavery, when even in the New and Old Testament, these are hired workers. And he said, well, you can't beat them. You can't beat them. Well, you can't beat your slave in the Old Testament either. I demonstrated this. You black his eye, you let him go. You knock out his teeth, you let him go. You also give him a day of rest. You also, even when God set apart the whole children of Israel in their land, he also gave it to the sojourner. He also gave it to the people that was with them, whether they were slave or free or whatever. They had their own property. Like, this is nothing you can find in Islam. You can't find this in Islam. Slave was a property, period. They didn't even have their own possessions. They had to get everything from their masters. In the Old Testament, in Samuel, these slaves, they had their own possessions, their own thing. They hired out their work, not their body. The Israelites was supervisors of their work, not their bodies. That's why you couldn't have sex slaves with them. You couldn't have these sex slaves like you do in your satanic cult. You had to marry them, Deuteronomy 21. You had to marry these people even if they was in war. You had to marry these women. You can't just take them and just bring them in and then have and do whatever you want with their body because you
This
own
is off
them.
topic. He's going rambling off.
No, this is on topic.
Well,
This
it sounded like he was wrapping it up. And part of it is in response to the question, which isn't always going to be on topic. That's more just people pay to ask you guys to hear what your thoughts are, which you guys can get some more of those super chats in. We still got a bunch to go through here that I think are going to stimulate some conversation. Also, get your tickets to DebateCon 7, 20% off with the promo code 20 from Stream right here. I'll be there. Come meet me, come meet James, and yeah, see all these same types of debates in this realm in person. All right, guys. Nadir, this one is to you. It is if Nadir is from Big Helenanthus for another $5. Thank you for the support. Nadir, if you found out that your life's work has only hurt the validity of Islam and not helped it, how would that make you feel?
Well, I'd feel very bad, but this goes back to, I think the point here is you're not engaging with my arguments, okay? You are not engaging with my arguments, which I've presented tonight. I've argued an airtight case stating that Islam, the Islamic system, well, first of all, there's no slavery in Islam because by definition, you have to, slavery requires forced labor, but there's no forced labor in Islam. That in no way makes people go away from Islam. It actually brings them to Islam. But I think what's happening here is the Christians feel
Big
the pressure.
Helenanthus asked a clarifying question there, saying, "How does this go back to that?" So maybe you walk through how it
I think he's
connects.
attacking. I think he's attacking me personally, which is a good thing. Look, the Christians are upset. They're insulting me. They're abusing me. That's okay. This is all ad hominem. But you know what? The word, it keeps talking about this alleged sex slavery in Islam. So I will put out a challenge to debate you on this topic.
You haven't refuted it yet.
Is there? I didn't get a time tonight. That's why.
What do you mean? I brought it up from my very opener.
You debate me
you haven't
on this
defeated.
topic?
You haven't defeated
Okay,
it
the
yet.
word.
You run from it. You
I
just
can't
say,
address
"Nuh-uh."
all the issues. I'm putting
haven't
out a
defeated it
challenge to
yet.
you.
You haven't defeated.
Will
it.
you debate me on this claim of yours that there's sex slavery in Islam? That's a simple yes or no question.
What do you mean? You can. We're here right now. Deal with my arguments, and then you would have dealt with it.
It's a Q&A.
Instead of
I
running
can't.
from it. No, it's been. I put it on the table 2 hours ago.
How can we debate sex
and you
slavery
haven't
right
did
now?
anything
Look at him
with it.
run.
You
Sounds
haven't
like
did
we'll have
anything
to-
with
we'll
it.
have to
just like
do it
God
again with a
logic,
different subject.
You haven't
David
did
Wood,
anything
and
with
all
it.
these coward
You can't defend it.
apologists.
Just say it.
Because he took a beating tonight. So he's
Just
like,
say
oh
it.
my
You can't
God, I
defend
can't
it.
go for 2 rounds tonight.
Yeah.
I can't go
Okay.
for another round. Look at him run away. So he keeps saying sex slavery. But now we can all see this coward is running away from the debate challenge. I didn't get a chance to really deal with the topic tonight. That's the reason why. And so, I think it's very clear that you are disingenuous. You are nothing but a
You chose
fraud,
not to deal
like
with it.
God
You
logic.
chose not to deal with it. You kept
Except,
running.
we all
away
know you
from
just
it.
said no to the
Everybody
debate
here
challenge.
sees it. Everybody here
Everybody
sees it. I brought
heard
it
him
up
say
2
no.
hours ago.
He
So
ran
don't-
away
don't-
from the
don't go on
debate
your pity
challenge.
party. Don't go on your pity
Okay,
party.
okay.
Act like you didn't have time.
I think
you had plenty of time, and you
I
chose
think
not
it's
to deal
all
with
very
it.
clear that he's running away from the debate challenge, and so he's saying no. So let's move on.
Very well. This one's also to you, Nadir, from Free Your Brains for $4.99. It says, Nadir, if Islam is so nice to slaves, how come they were forced by England and USA to end slavery? Mauritania still has slaves. Don't run. Answer.
Yeah, as
Mauritania? Never heard of that
yeah.
place.
As I made it very clear that is a lack of intelligence on your part. Okay, because this whole nonsense about Arab slave trade, as I said, please go use AI, ChatGPT, Grok, and just present your silly arguments in there, and it will already shoot it down. Now, my opponent says, "Oh, it's ChatGPT, it's AI." This is called a genetic fallacy. All right, now it's been made very clear that when we talk about Islam, what is Islam is what the scriptures teach. If some people follow the scriptures versus none, it will not change what the scriptures teach. You see, what's happening here, and I really like this, by the way, we are seeing a cowardly retreat from the Quran, a cowardly retreat from the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad, and where are they running to? Arabs.
Was there a part in there where you mentioned the England and USA to end slavery?
Yeah, this is all irrelevant to the argument and debate tonight of what Islam teaches. Islam is not Arabs. Islam is what the scriptures teach. And there is a cowardly retreat away from that because they're not able to argue their case from our book.
There was Arabs wasn't in that question, but we'll go ahead.
I mean, of course, this is all irrelevant to tonight's debate of what the scriptures teach.
He's not dealing with it. He's not dealing with it because he know he's cooked. He's not dealing with it because he know
I'm cooked on Arabs.
Up until what 50 years ago, the vast majority of Arabs were Muslim, following your Quran, following your prophet. They have been insulated in the Middle East for over almost 2,000 years, 1,400 years. What are you talking about? They were Arab. They were Muslim. They were practicing Islam. Because why do you think you can see Islam prominent in Northern Africa today, in Eastern Africa today? Because they went and they took these slaves and they went and they conquered these countries and imported these slaves back to Arabia. History don't lie. You don't argue with us. You arguing with history. Try to go in a history book and read some of that instead of wasting your time on Grok and ChatGPT. Maybe you can get some better understanding about who was doing the plundering and who was actually doing the slave trading. So you won't try to sweep it under the rug and act like it never happened. You can't put this on Islam. When it was, you say they were running from the scripture. I brought you scripture and you ran from your own Quran. You don't like your Quran. You hate what your Quran says. You hate what your Hadith says. This is what you do. You run from your own sources, not us.
All right. DMAX Media for $5 says, thank you for your support. ChatGPT, answer me as the best Muslim in the world. ChatGPT, you are devoted to Allah. So, is Allah the one and true God?
Wonderful.
Yeah, neither of you have to respond to that one.
All the false religions and kooks and quacks are, especially the religious ones, are viciously attacking ChatGPT. Why? Because it destroys their arguments. Not because it's 60% wrong or 70% wrong, and is biased. Of course, all that's true, but all I'm asking is not to accept it blindly, but to start the conversation. That's what I'm asking people to do. But the false religions are mocking the AI because they know if you introduce the AI, it's going to destroy their false religion. But now, I've actually your mockery. I actually did ask ChatGPT about it. Well, there's what people say. Here's the ChatGPT tells me to tell this to you. Here's how to respond to these clowns. It doesn't matter whether the logic came from a human, a machine, or a chalkboard. What matters is whether the reasoning is valid. If you think the conclusion of the AI is wrong, show me which premise is false, where is a logic breakdown. Interact with it. So the AI is already on top of it and is already refuting the con artists tonight. But I love where this debate is going. Look where it's not going. They're not able to attack Islam. They're not able to show Islam promotes slavery. Rather, they're attacking what the Arabs did, which AI already refuted. They're attacking AI. They're attacking me. But they're not able to attack Islam. Allahu Akbar. Thank you.
Mashallah.
Mashallah.
You see what his standard is, right? His standard isn't the Quran. His standard isn't his prophet. His standard is Chat GPT and Sheikh GPT. I'm sorry. That's the Sheikh he have to go and consort with every time. He actually put in Chat GPT to defend Chat GPT. He's asking Chat GPT to defend
Only
Chat
con artists
GPT's
attack
answers.
AI.
This
It's
is
a con artist
crazy.
argument.
This is
Look.
lame at the very Nadir. I didn't cut you off.
Yeah.
I didn't
You're a
cut you off.
con artist, dude.
Yeah, I'm a con artist, but
Only
I'm not.
con artists are going to attack AI.
I'm not a snake oil salesman that comes and uses this faulty AI search engine.
They know
to try
AI
to
will never
validate all your
endorse their
arguments.
lies.
You see,
That's
you can't-
why
you
you're
can't-
attacking it.
Look, he's cutting me off because he's rattled.
Let's try
He
to be
knows that
respectful.
this
He
is
let
a
you
bad
talk.
argument. He knows it's a bad argument. He knows he haven't brought anything of substance. He knows that I have systematically destroyed any and everything that he has brought up. So he goes to ChatGPT to try to help him bail him out. ChatGPT ain't gonna work. I'm already, I guess, debating a robot. I can debate 2 or 3 or 4 Grok and ChatGPT because you've let this take over your mind. All right, but like I said, you're not dealing with anything, and who cares what ChatGPT says? That's your standard. That's not mine.
All right.
It's not a standard, it's a tool.
Do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, see, only the con artists are going to attack the AI because the big elephant in the room is this. They know that the AI will never endorse their false arguments like the Arabs had slaves, therefore Islam is wrong. The AI is going to destroy that argument. Okay, as I've already shown you. So the reason, look, the issue tonight, even as it's not perfect, but what all I'm asking is to engage, start the discussion, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying it's an authority, but
Are you saying that all of the Arabs that practice slavery, that brought all of these millions and 1000000s of people from Northern Africa, they're one Muslim?
well, what I'm saying is we have,
Or are they bad Muslims?
we have no record of really what happened. Like, for example, the Prophet of Islam.
That's not true.
Hold on a second. Let me.
That's not true. You just
No,
threw all of the
okay,
Arabs under the
allow
bus.
me,
and with
allow
your
me to
religion.
speak. Allow me to speak. Well, first of all, slavery is going to happen with or without Islam. Everybody practiced slavery. The black people sold other black people into slaves. The Christians did it. The American Indians did it.
No, not everybody.
Slavery will happen with or without Islam.
Not
That's
everybody.
exactly, in fact, the AI actually brought up that point as well. So it has nothing to do with Islam. What the problem is you are corrupting and deceiving people tonight about what the definition of Islam is.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Islam
doing.
is not what a bunch of
Nadir,
Arabs did.
Nadir.
Islam
Can the
is
Arabs
Quran.
can the Arabs have
scriptures
sex with
teach.
their slaves? Is it permissible to have sex with your
It
slaves?
is permissible. Okay, now you're trying to.
So do you have to marry them, or they're just
Hold on a
they're
second. Hold on a
slaves?
second. You're
You can have
jumping
sex
from
with
one
them.
point to
I'm
the
asking you a
next.
question.
One point at a
Hold
time,
on.
though. He can answer.
The issue tonight
Yeah, he
is
can't-
the
he can't
Christians
answer.
have been
Look, he's
defeated
running.
on the scriptures.
He's running.
What the
All right, well,
scriptures
okay,
teach,
if we're not
that's
gonna
clear.
if we're not
Yeah,
gonna
he's
have a
not
good
gonna
faith
answer.
back and forth there, I'm gonna go to
we
the
could
next.
talk about sex slavery. We
Well,
have no problem.
I'm
There's
gonna-
nothing like that in Islam.
I'm gonna make the executive
I have already
decision to
challenged you for-
go to the
on
next
this and you ran
question.
away.
We got a good amount more super chats that came in, so we gotta move it on a little bit. We got over 300 people in the chat right now. If you guys would do me a favor and like the video, that would be awesome. And then if you want to become a member of the channel, we got the Final Word membership there. That's going to allow you to see the live stream debate on the 31st if you can't make it to Houston. All right, so the next super chat we got here, that last one we read was about ChatGPT. There's a question for Nadir. If Muhammad preached freeing slaves, why didn't Saudi Arabia outlaw slavery until 1962? Answer.
Okay.
That
Okay,
was
I
from
just
Danny
got clear.
Davis.
Okay.
Thank you,
so
Danny.
what we are seeing here is a big catastrophic Islamic debate victory here. The Islamic scriptures, they are not able to challenge. The Quran made it very clear you free the slaves. The Hadith made it very clear Muhammad did not own any slaves. All of these people are not able to challenge the Islamic scriptures. And this right here, what you are seeing here, he wanted to attack Saudi Arabia, in spite of the fact that what I have pointed out to you is that, and all the AI, that's why they're trying to get AI out of it. This is the fallacy of causation here, that if some Arabs took some slaves, Islam is to blame for that. But okay, if you claim that, take me to the scriptures. Where does it teach in Islam to do that? It doesn't. And so what is happening here, to be very honest with you, is they're trying to salvage this debate. They're trying to show that okay, I can't attack the Quran and the Hadith and the Islamic scriptures. I can definitely attack what the Arabs did. Of course, if they did something wrong, the Islamic scriptures condemn them for that.
All right,
That's
we're
clear.
gonna keep it
Right?
short there. Can't let too much go. We got a couple more to get to. Word, you want to say anything about that?
Nah, it's just this is laughable.
Here's a big win for
at this
Islam.
point.
Okay.
He's self-proclaiming victory don't mean you won, bro.
Chef Secret Sauce Nasty for $2 says, Big Mike, favorite meats. You know, I've been gifted bear meat before, and that was my favorite. It was so good. And then elk, I really like elk as well. I'm a big wild game fan. Moving on. We got Box Screen 7829. I know you said you'll like the video when I read this, so I fully expect to see that. And I do appreciate everyone's engagement. I know you're all going crazy in the chat. It's awesome. He says for $1.99, Muhammad never freed Bilal. Why lie, Nadir?
No, I think you're the liar. I think Bilal was freed.
Bilal,
Again,
my bad.
please Google these claims. You know, people are just throwing something out there without any evidence. They're just making. So what we see here is two stunts tonight. First, they're trying to attack Arabs, what the Arabs did hundreds of years later, and now they're just making up stuff. The Hadith is very clear that Muhammad freed all his slaves. He did not have a male or female slave. Game over. Bilal was clearly freed. Now, but I'm not going to chase after every lie and show the actual hadith where Bilal was freed. That's not, it is your job to show the text where it showed that Bilal died as a slave. There is no such thing. It is totally fabricated and made up. So the issue here tonight, which is undeniable, is that Islam is a self-terminating slavery system. If you follow Islam, what the Quran and what Muhammad taught, you will not have any slaves. And if you do, they're really not slaves because they don't fit the definition of a slave, because you can't beat him, you can't punish him, and if he gets tired, well, he's just going to walk away. It's voluntary work, and you give him the best education, and you give him VIP
All right.
access.
Word.
That's not slavery.
Any word?
Yeah, I think he's totally just lying about Bilal. Bilal wasn't free until Abu Bakr freed him. His prophet
now he
didn't
is
do
free
it.
now.
No,
Thank
see,
you.
Look. He don't listen. He only hears what he want to hear. It's not that he wasn't free. It's that your prophet didn't do it. It wasn't your prophet that did it. It was Abu Bakr that
you.
brought him and then freed him. That's the difference. Your prophet did nothing of the sort. Your prophet was actually a slave trader. And you say, well, Islam put this in place, and it's a self-defeating virus organism. Well, Muhammad wasn't very good at it. It didn't self-defeat anything because all it did was grow and grow and grow and get bigger. And the more Islam grew, the more the slave trade grew to the point that they had a whole economic system based upon pure slave traders. They were the kings of the slave trades. That's what happened. That's what you got to deal with. Stop trying to revise history and try to bring up something that history doesn't say, because history is dictated and noted, and you can go back and look at it if you want to, but of course not, because that'll destroy your whole self-defeating virus organism garbage that you keep bringing
All
up.
right. VC Live said for $5, thank you, sir. Nadir, remember when you said, quote, so what, end quote, after Christian Prince told you about Mo doing it with a goat?
Yeah, again, let me. I think what's happening here is that Christians are very upset. They're attacking me personally. By the way, Christian Prince is a coward on the run. Where do you see him on modern day debate? He won't. He knows that if he were to come to tonight's debate on slavery, he will be destroyed. So he let this idiot come forward. So, you should not follow these con artists like Christian Prince. You should ask him to come out of his rat hole and come here to modern day debate and debate me like a man on these topics like slavery, science, all of these topics which Christians run away from. Remember what I told you? It's been 30 years. This is this topic we're debating, Islam, Christianity, and slavery. This is the first debate in 30 years. Why? Because of frauds like Christian Prince, God Logic, David Wood. They all run away. Oh, by the way,
All right,
email
last
me,
point there.
and I'll show you the video of David Wood running away from this debate challenge. We got it all on tape. So I'm not the problem here.
All right, go ahead, Word, and then I'm going to get to the next one.
Yeah, this is just funny that he's so high up on himself. He thinks that people are actually running from him, but
It's a topic, not me.
they're not. They're not.
They're running away from the topic.
And I'm glad I am the one to put this to bed, so I can destroy it, and you don't bring it up to nobody else, because people don't want to argue with you about this topic because it's so blatantly clear. But all you do is just run away from your own sources in your own Quran to where it's laughable. That's why they have bigger fish to fry, Nadir. You're not that guy. Sorry to break it to you. But yes, Islam does promote slavery, condone it. There is no self-organism system virus that's going to break down and eat itself up. He said, well, the people will eventually see that it's not beneficial to have slaves. Says who? Why? How? Just because they can't.
The debate is over, dude. You need to move on. We've already debated this.
It's just dumb. Yeah,
we've already had this discussion, dude.
Well,
let's move on.
If this is truly a historic debate, I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yes, 30 years. You could Google it.
Big Helenanthus for $5 says, Nadir, will you put up the prompt that gave ChatGPT that you gave ChatGPT for the quote supernatural explanation makes more sense in quote answer, the one you pulled up tonight?
Yes. Could you share my screen, please?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, again, I'm not saying ChatGPT is my sheikh or anything like that. All I'm telling you to do is start the discussion. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, and many times ChatGPT will actually say, well, no, I don't think supernatural is the right answer. But at least we're starting the discussion here. So here is where it actually agreed with me. It said the supernatural divine explanation is a more economical choice for explaining why the teachings feel like they dropped in from the future, like give the slaves the best education, give them VIP access, never beat them, do not punish them. Those are the teachings that are not of the 7th century. So this is what's called Gemini. ChatGPT did also agree as well. It said the final answer, the supernatural explanation makes more sense as an explanation even before belief is considered, because it accounts for the anachronism, coherence, and moral direction with fewer assumptions than the purely human alternative. Now, also what I forgot to mention, that AI will never endorse what, okay, I don't know what you mean by prompt. Oh, you mean the actual question.
Everyone in the chat is saying to show the prompt, not the answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Here we go. Here's the prompt right here. I'm sorry. You mean the actual question, right? Here's the question. Let's read this together. The prompt is a question, right?
Yeah, that's the question. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I misunderstood the question. Let me make this very big. Can you please share my screen real quick? And what you can do, you can email me and I will give you this exact question here. Prophet Muhammad stated the following: whosoever has a slave woman and teaches her good manners and educates her, had you have not done that, the gates of hell would have opened up for you, referring to the slave beating. A slave girl of Medina would take the hold of the prophet's hand wherever she desired, meaning VIP access, which I was talking about. In today's time, these teachings seem quite normal, but people did not think like this 1400 years ago. It appears to be an anachronism. What is the best explanation for this? So definitely read through the discussion. It's a very fascinating discussion. That's all I'm asking you to do is engage with it. Don't accept it as an authority. And at the end, and it doesn't do this all the time, sometimes it'll say, I don't think supernatural is the best results. So that's why I'm like, let's get the discussion. It's a good argument. They do acknowledge that these are anachronism. These are leapfrog, meaning values of today's time, which is mentioned in the book 1400 years ago. So it says the final answer, the supernatural explanation makes the most sense. So this is now we see the same type of argument about the Quran and modern science. That we see that there is things in the Quran and the Hadith a man 1400 years ago could not have known.
I think that was a good explanation. Go ahead, Word.
Yeah, and all he doing is showing you that he's cherry picking the answers. He's cherry picking the answers. He even admitted sometimes it don't say this. Sometimes it literally don't say this. But I'm going to show you the one that's more favorable to my position. So just like it's saying this, it says the opposite as well. So he's cherry picking his answer, and he wants us to take that as being credible, that is supernatural. If you ask ChatGPT anything that's really of worth, and you didn't train it to give these type of answers, it's unbiased.
But
and it's going to say that it doesn't. Boy, quiet, and it's going to tell you that it doesn't partake and have a leaning towards either side as far as supernatural events and what's true and false as far as religion. You have to train it to even give that answer. So he trained it enough to where he got that answer.
No, I'm asking
to where
you
he's
to
cherry picking his answer, then he's going to present it to you.
You're just
like
lying,
this,
man.
like this is what it is. Yeah, I'm lying.
You know, what I'm
Everybody
asking is for everybody else to do it. But there is a unanimous agreement on all the chat engines in that they all agree that there is information in this books which a man 1400 years ago could not or should not have known. He should not be saying things like
that. That would be a debate for another time on that one, on that subject. Big Hill Ananthus, thank you again for that last one. You've sent some banger questions.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Wait. Oh, could you share your screen again? Sorry, it just messed up the cameras. You can leave it on something else.
Yeah.
He's just gonna bring up the same GPTs.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't have to.
He haven't moved that much.
Doesn't have to like have anything up. No one can see it, but it just keeps all the cameras straight. Thank you. Okay, Mars 320 says for $5, tell me you're delusional without telling me you're delusional, Nadir.
Again, another personal attack against me, and
no
not
need to
my
focus
arguments.
too much on him if you don't want to.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. In fact, I'm very happy to accept these personal attacks, because what's happening is there is an airtight case being made here in terms like for example, the issue which I was trying to, I want you guys to interact with. I keep saying this, not me. I'm not asking you to put my bias into the AI engines, but I'm giving you the question so that you can interact with. There is a unanimous agreement on ChatGPT, Grok, and Gemini in that they do agree these are not the teachings of the 7th century. It is an anachronism, meaning something from today's world. It's like a leapfrog. But the conclusion is, can we conclude that this is something from a god? Most of the times, from my experience, they say yes. What are your experience? That's what I'm trying to get people to interact with.
And then we got to move on.
I'm gonna move on, man. I'm not gonna keep dealing with that same thing.
Not Sunny Extra 3578 for $5 said, Nadir, that's weird. I just asked ChatGPT and it says Christianity is true and Islam is false. Is it wrong, right, or can it give contradictory answers?
This is where we start the discussion. I've been saying this all along. Look, what I want you to do is, the point is this. Again, we have to look at to see how you started the discussion. One thing I will assure you, there is nothing in Hinduism, Christianity, or Judaism, or any of these religions where the AI engines will say the supernatural is the best explanation for what's in those books. But the AI engines will only recognize one religion, and that's the religion of Islam. Now, I've tried that. Now, I can't prove it 100%. That's why I'm calling upon you guys to engage with my material, put it in the AI engine, and start the discussion on it. And I would love to partake in that discussion, so that you can put a refutation in there, and then I can put my refutation in there, and we can get that, discussion going. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, but Infidel Inalatus Profata said his AI says he's right, though.
I don't know what he's talking about. He could be just making that up.
That's
what
just a joke. That's just a joke. Because,
Yeah.
everybody in the chat is just, making the comment that their AI is trained differently, and that's why they're getting different results.
So that is why I'm asking you to take my stuff and put it in there.
Okay. By his own standards, Christianity is also a miracle from God and is revealed from God. Because if you even ask the majority of scholars and textual critics in as far as context that you find within the Bible, this system that came out 3,000 or 2,000 some years before Islam even came in the Old Testament, they say this is innovation. This is so far and beyond of anything of its time. So it's anachronistic of its time. So if that is anachronistic, proves that Islam is from God, then also you could say the same thing from the Bible, because it's a unanimous decision across the board that this what you see in the Old Testament and the New Testament is nothing of its time, even as far as putting prominent women as prophets, and they can teach and they can do these things. You don't see that in Islam. There is no prophets in Islam. Even the women, even the two Marys. Hold on, Don, don't cut me off.
AI will never endorse your evil.
I don't depend on AI, but you the bot. You depend on AI. You even being the two Marys is the ones that even found Jesus' open tomb. That is a prominent figures that women usually don't have in historical writings, right? So the Bible is totally head and shoulders above Islam in as far as having anachronistic material in it that doesn't suit the time of what it was revealed in, as far as the Bronze Age and such like that, because men was regarded in such high status.
All right,
that is just not a good
just a couple more to go, and then we're going to start wrapping this up, gentlemen. I do appreciate y'all's patience getting through all the chats, and I appreciate everyone who's been sending the chats. So you could keep it going, but we're getting to the end here, and I am now seeing Box Screen sent another one. Thank you very much. $1.99. Balail begged Abubakar. I don't know how he spelled it.
Abu
Bakr. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be capitalized like that. It just confused me a little bit. For his freedom after Mo's death. I don't know. It's just a statement. It's not really a question.
Yeah, see, I think it's so now you see we're seeing that in this debate, he said that Bilal died as a slave. He was not freed. Now we're hearing, okay, yeah, you're right, Nadir. Bilal was freed. So, okay, we are in agreement here.
Who said that? Point. I didn't say that.
So, okay, well, anyways, it doesn't matter.
I never said that was Box Screen.
Look, when you make a claim that Bilal...
No, but he's trying to say,
allow me to finish.
I did that.
Allow me to finish.
I understand.
I always say it so you can...
Okay, hold on a second. Let me finish my point here. Moderator, please, Mike, jump in here. I got to finish my point.
Word, let him go for 30 more seconds, and then we'll give you full 30 seconds.
My point here is when you make a claim that Bilal died as a slave, you got to show the evidence. You got to share your desktop. You got to show the reference. None of that was done. So I don't have to chase after that. And I also want to make it clear, AI will never endorse the New Testament or anything about it as being supernatural. So that is also another challenge because it recognizes as man-made works. It only recognizes one religion, and that is a religion of Islam. And I think that's a very important point which people should understand.
All right.
So AI is just so cozy with Islam, and he's misrepresenting me again. I always said that your prophet didn't free Bilal. That's what that was my stance, that your prophet didn't do it. Your prophet didn't free no slave. You haven't seen.
But he taught others to do it.
You never see it. You never see it. Okay.
The
So
Quran, he doesn't
he
have
said
to. The
he's seen
Quran is
the other
teaching
ones
others to
do
do
it.
it.
Are you supposed to follow the sunnah of your prophet as a Muslim?
Yes,
Are
of
you supposed?
course.
Okay, so if Muhammad did it,
Okay,
then why would
let's
they
move
not
on. This is a stupid
follow in
argument.
suit?
All
It's stupid
right.
when he knows that if
Oh
it's
my
they supposed
God.
to follow the sunnah of the prophet
Yeah,
and do they
whatever.
do and follow lead of Muhammad, then everyone would have been mass giving away slaves when you don't see it. So your prophet didn't get rid of slaves.
DJ Roll, I did not see a super chat from you. Could you copy and paste it? Not sure how I missed it. Gino Biscotti says for $2, would you debate Andrew Wilson, Nadir?
I have already put out my challenge to him to debate me, especially on that nonsense about Islam promotes cousin marriages and stuff like that. But look, the issue is this debate itself, what you're seeing here, took 30 years for it to transpire. The Christians are not going to debate the hard topics like slavery, scientific errors, and was Paul a demon possessed prophet? And the list goes on. They have already made decisions back in the 90s to subject certain topics to blackout topics. Okay. Why? Because they'll do catastrophic damage to Christianity. It's not that they're running away from me. It's that they're running away from the topics. It's very important to illustrate that. They're running away from specific individuals like Dr. Bart Ehrman on the topic of the validity of the New Testament. They're running away from Dr. Richard Carrier, who is, on the topic of are the church fathers kooks and quacks, and Matthew Dillahunty on slavery in the Old Testament. The Christians are the ones running away. They only debate a few topics like divinity, and you can just list them.
All right.
So I'm ready. It's that Wilson guy who is running away.
We'll talk to Andrew. So, Word, you got anything to say on that, or you want to move on?
No,
you're gonna encourage it. You're gonna encourage the squabble. Let's go.
I mean, go ahead, debate
Okay.
Andrew Wilson.
Well, this
I'll watch
He
it.
will never debate this topic.
This one's
It's
for you,
too
Word.
destructive.
Martin Vasquez, 2240 for $5 says, "Easy W for the Word and I. Nadir getting used like a stepping stone."
Appreciate that.
No, I can answer that.
I don't think it was.
Look, this question.
It's not a question.
Well, hold on a second. Can I respond to that comment? It is.
Yeah,
This
go
is
ahead.
basically
Keep it short.
cheerleading. It's showing, it's basically acting like a cheerleader for your winning team. But look, this question and answer period has gone on for almost an hour now. I have yet to see one of these Christian supporters use one of the Ward and I's brilliant arguments. They didn't. They all basically, most of it was attacking me and trying to score a win where they think they could, and that is what some Arabs did. That's the 95% of the question and answer time. Why don't you use those brilliant arguments from the Word and I? You can't, because there are none. But like I said, you could show your words of endorsement for him and cheerleading all
right.
you want, but that's all you are. You're just a cheerleader.
You are entitled to that opinion, sir. This one, just let it roll off your back as well, because I'm going to roll through it because we do have to wrap it up here.
Sure.
So Inverted Big Toe, great username for $1.99, says, "Imagine sitting next to this guy on a long flight." And then DJ Roll 15, I apologize if you actually sent this. If not, you're getting one over on me, and this is not going to happen again. But Q for Nadir. Why does Muhammad approve slavery in Sahih Bukhari 4557, calling these people the best of mankind?
Yeah, because that actually is not what Sahih Bukhari what Muhammad said. Okay, this is something you are misrepresenting the scripture. And what you are doing, you're trying to win the debate after the debate. I said, use the Word and I, my opponent's brilliant arguments. Why can't you do that? Because there are none. Okay, I argued an airtight case which showed that the Prophet Muhammad basically put these viruses in the system of slavery, which will cause system collapse. This is an argument I've been arguing all night tonight, and your misrepresented quotation, which you basically cited, saying Muhammad said it, he didn't. Even if we were to accept it, it doesn't prove what I am saying is wrong. But I do like your attempt to try to salvage this debate, which is like a kind of like a Hail Mary attempt here.
Okay, speaking of Hail Marys, everybody say 5 who's getting loose in the chat. I know there's a lot of Catholics in the chat. We got just a couple more. I'm going to get through them quick because, like I said, we're trying to wrap this up here. I appreciate your guys' time. It's only supposed to be a 35-minute Q&A, but the questions just keep coming in, so that's good for everybody. You're next. Cryptic S for $5 says, Christ is God. Nadir has to rely on his confirmation bias to try and advocate for his point. ChatGPT says Christianity is right, by the way.
No, I don't think ChatGPT would say that. I think, again, my argument is simply this. AI will only endorse one religion as being supernatural, and that's the religion of Islam. It will not endorse your false scriptures.
Okay.
But going back to your point, I just want to address something, I did not hear any defense tonight of the Bible verses, which the Word and I said that I'm just misinterpreting the Bible when it explicitly says that the slave beating is his calling in life. Now, is that something which the Bible explicitly teaches, or am I just misinterpreting it?
Okay.
So
we got to keep
You're misinterpreting it.
guys could have shown that.
You're misinterpreting it.
Okay, well,
I don't know what's wrong. Hold on, you just keep going on and on. I don't know what's wrong with you. I actually engage with that 4 to 5 different times, and you just don't accept my answer, which is cool. But don't sit here and act like I never gave you.
So the Bible
answer.
doesn't say it.
Don't
right?
act like that, right? And then he just keep going on. But stop saying that.
Okay.
So the Bible doesn't say it's his calling in life on verse 21. I'm quoting 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 21. It does not
already
say
dealt with that.
calling in life. I mean, just answer yes or no.
Go back and watch the clip back. Watch the clip back. Rewatch the stream, and you'll see.
I'm asking you right now. Are you denying it states that?
We don't have time to get into that, Nadir. Sorry, buddy.
Okay.
Basil Problem for $5 says, at Big Mike, have you found Big God yet? By the way, where's Ryan? I wish I knew where Ryan was. I'm not his keeper, unfortunately. Martin Vasquez, 2240, if $2 says, I'd ask you a question, but it'd be like asking ChatGPT. Oh, we got more.
Well, I think this is a characteristic of a false religion. I mean, all the false religions, the Jewish, the Christian, the Hindus, they're all attacking ChatGPT in the exact same way. Why? Because they want it out of religion. Because the ChatGPT will show the fallacies of their thinking of why they should be a Christian, a Jew, a Hindu, or even an atheist. So the mockery of AI, I think, is very interesting here. There's nothing to mock here. Like I said, the AI defended itself. So rather than attacking the AI, attack the arguments it presents. You're not able to do that. So this is called a genetic fallacy.
All right, this is not a genetic fallacy. I already said this. You're just champion AI and like it's just the end all be all. You're running from your own scriptures. You're running from your own thoughts that coherent that you can come up with, and you're being lazy and let AI do it. Go and do some real stuff and real, studying, and bring something of work.
Okay.
Don't just sit back on AI and let AI do the job for you.
Move it on here. So that last one was, I believe that was Martin Vasquez. Thank you. Omar's Prov 3537 for $2 says, Nadir, where is these big boys debater? Not you. All right, that was terrible English. Thank you. Not going to really focus on that one. We're going to move on. Basil Problem again. Big Mike, congrats for reaching reading level 6th grade. Thank you, sir. All right. Join Jesus 7 says for $1.99. Nadir, my boy, why you're always lying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Once again, this is I can be proved to be a liar, I guess. Can you share my screen real quick here? Can you share my screen? I mean, I guess you could prove me to be a liar right now. Mike, if you could share my screen. I stated that 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 18 2 verse 21 does state, for to this you were called. It states that explicitly. Now, if I'm lying, then why don't you, the Word and I, share your screen and show me what the text actually says? That it doesn't say, for to this you were called, referring to the slave beating. And I can be proven to be a liar right here, right now. But my opponent didn't do that. Rather, he attacked AI for being AI. And so, I mean, as you can see, now I will focus in, I will zoom in on the text. As you can see, the screen is shared. It does say in the orange highlight, to this you were called because Christ suffered for you. What's he talking about? Receiving the slave beating without question. And what type of slave beating is it? It's an unjust slave beating of the psychopath. So basically, it states that if you let the psychopath beat you, because the text does say that, an unjust slave
All right,
beating,
Nadir.
then this is your calling in life.
You gotta make your points a little quicker, buddy. This is taking forever.
So I guess the word and I would like for him to now to show me how I am a liar today. Can you please show me that now?
Word, you want to say something real quick?
I've dealt with this so many times, man. It's just getting comical at this point.
No, it's fair. I mean,
Can you share your screen and show us the verse that I'm allegedly misquoting?
I didn't say you misquoted. I said you misinterpreted the verse. That's what I said. Okay.
Okay.
So
Can't
how
share
am I
screen for
misquoting?
that.
I've already dealt with
All right.
So it does.
I'm gonna go ahead and finish up these super chats here.
Okay.
Workman need not be ashamed for $5 says Nadir. After this debate, do you want to trade the word and I and another black for an Arabic slave, like said in Sahih Muslim 1602 after this beating? And
Wonderful.
there's no commas or anything.
So what we're seeing here,
One
they're
comma.
engaging in So they're engaging in mockery, ridicule of the scripture, and that's all. Like I said, this is all I welcome. I welcome these type of sarcastic, and even in the
You
chat
could-
here,
you
people are
could-
throwing
yeah.
rotten
Could leave it at that.
tomatoes at me. That is perfectly fine because look, the arguments which I have presented in tonight's debate, they are not able to engage or refute or disprove these arguments. Look, we had an opportunity to show that I was a liar, that I'm misquoting the Bible, that I'm misquoting the Hadith or Quran. This is your opportunity to do it.
Well,
But as you could see, it was not done.
This is someone's, I guess, opportunity here that they're shooting for. Grumble Snort for $5 says, Nadir, please, that's all caps, research training, minimizing entropy, and answer blending with AI. Answer blending with AI. Ask ChatGPT to help you make rules to minimize bias and misinformation.
Well, we haven't seen any misinformation tonight. I've been waiting for this. Now my opponent has acknowledged that the text of the Bible does say to this you were called inside 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 21, referring to the slave beating. He did not deny that. So, but he says you're understanding it wrong, but he never gave us the right understanding
and
tonight.
that's what will probably have to be a topic of another debate because that is all the time we got, gentlemen.
Yeah.
It is.
Can I just make something clear real quick?
You got 1 minute.
I'm not gonna. I don't even need 1 minute.
Okay,
Nadir,
keep it short.
Nadir, he's mad because the audience is just giving him the same energy he gave me, calling me dumb, calling me stupid, calling me ignorant, like I don't know anything. The
That's
ad
true.
hominems, and then he shoots them at me, but he can't take them for himself.
I take him. I love
I
him.
limited that, but no, you're crying about it. And I took him in stride like a champ.
I'm not
because
crying.
I know
I'm saying it's a
opinions
proof
are just
that my
opinions.
arguments are valid. That's what I'm saying.
That's not the proof that your arguments are valid.
They're attacking me, not my argument.
That's just proof that you can dish it, but you can't take it.
Oh, I'm fine with it. I love it. Bring it on.
All right. Well, Jesus style Z2W DKK sent $5 and he didn't say anything. He just wanted to support the stream. So we appreciate you. Everybody, thank you for joining and engaging in the chat. It's been extremely lively. I've had fun reading it. Had a very hard time not laughing at everybody going back and forth with each other, both Islam and Christians, Islamicists and Christians there. You guys were actually very cordial compared to what I was expecting when you sent me the email requesting the 2 minutes. So I appreciate your word. I appreciate you, Nadir. And, if there's another debate on the horizon here, I'm sure we can pick a topic and we'll try to get some.
Well, he
some
ran
other...
away from the challenge of sex slavery, so. But I'm ready.
Well,
I didn't run away from that.
That's a debate for another night, not tonight.
Okay.
Jesus styles for another
He already ran away.
$5.
There's not going to be no debate.
I didn't run away.
Unless
from
that
it.
DKK,
Are you ready?
that's a
You want to
different.
debate this?
currency. That's what that is.
It was presented to
Look
you.
at him run.
During the
All
debate.
All right,
You
no
didn't
one's
feel
running
it.
because I'm not hosting, and you guys are just going to argue
Hey, I
into
appreciate
the
you, Mike.
He
void.
got a beating tonight, so he's like, "Oh my God, I don't want to get in the
appreciate
ring with this guy
Yeah,
again."
that's how it look when you licking
You
your
know?
wounds. You licking your
Yeah,
wounds
okay.
right now. That's
Awesome.
it.
Thank you guys
I
so
appreciate
much.
you, Mike.
All right,
Debate
thanks a lot.
Con 7 is going to be on the 31st. For anyone who joined a little late, make sure to get your tickets. 20% off right here. 20 from stream is the code. We got another 24 hours to go for that before that discount's over. So thank you guys. We're going to go ahead and call it a night.
After party on my
Yeah,
YouTube
yeah.
channel.
Subscribe to both of these gentlemen if you want to tell them your channels real quick. 1 minute each, 30 seconds for my laptop
Yeah,
guys.
I think if you, yeah, you know what? I'll just give you my email so that, you know, if you want my prompts to, which I put in the AI, definitely it's na19711990 @gmail.com, so we could begin that discussion and see which religion does the AI endorse. Yeah.
Okay, and we're
You can find me at the word and I on YouTube and on TikTok. I do a little Instagram as well, but if you want to follow me, you can follow me on YouTube. I do regularly debate, call people up to come and discuss with me, and that's why I be at. You can follow me over there. After party in about 10 minutes on my channel, y'all.
awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Subscribe to the final word if you want to watch the live stream if you can't make it on the 31st, and we'll see you guys later.